steal all side, ride me, baby. I ain't never gonna stop. Come on now, baby. Ride me straight to the top. Yeah, straight to the top.
Do
Like
this.
down in a well.
This will let us know where we're starting.
It's gonna be in Chop City.
All right. Pop. Yeah. Bad
All
ideas.
right. Yeah.
Good stories. 28.
Yes.
We are 28.
Number 28.
Yes.
Number
I'm
one for
Dusty.
me.
That's
Number
Pat.
one for,
and number one for Mr. Dave Ma.
Dave Ma.
Round of applause, Dave Ma.
For those of you that are not aware, Dave has been both of our martial arts coaches in the past. And
Tormentor.
Yes, he's one of the most accomplished MMA competitors in Saskatoon.
Well, some would say the world.
Some would say
Some
the word.
would say the world.
In my world.
I would not say that.
Yeah. He's a humble man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
First I've heard you be humble, actually, Dave.
a long-standing doorman and bouncer in Saskatoon with many stories that he won't say on air, and operates Bartari Video Game Lounge now. Food Truck Wars events,
And beer wars as well.
Beer Wars, and another new entrepreneurial project, UV Clean.
Yep. So UVC light sterilization company
Yeah, so like
and a jiu-jitsu club. So,
and Imperium Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, so that's the new incarnation of the MMA thing, right?
yes.
That's quite the portfolio of things that you do.
Yeah, I stay busy. Yeah.
I was just talking about how much Grand Tour I'd watched over Christmas. I sure watched a lot of that TV show I really enjoy.
Yeah, there's a
Dave's
few
got
that I've ripped
9
through.
fucking hustling.
Well, you gotta hustle. I think that's why we get along, because we're both kind of like, hey, what can we do to kind of make an angle over here and make a couple extra bucks over here? Because my theory is that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You drop that basket, you're fucked, right? So what are your other angles on that? So,
Like especially during COVID, like I've really had to pivot to. It's like Bartari was where I made most of my money, but and as well as Food Truck Wars and Beer Wars, but those were gone, and so I had to pivot a bit and then opened up the jiu-jitsu club to help offset some of my losses, so, as well as the UBC light company too.
so how does that work? What exactly does the UV cover COVID?
Yes. So basically, the UVC light it kills 99.9% of bacteria and mold, and it'll disable viruses. So viruses aren't alive, but it'll disable like the DNA chain in them to make them ineffective. So our lights are the strongest you can get, and so we shine it on a surface for like 2 seconds, and it kills everything on that surface. So it's the same stuff they use in like hospitals to sterilize like rooms for surgery. So,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, very
yeah,
good.
So the
Oh,
machines.
you
are-
mean they're not just wiping them down with a rag?
well,
In the back pocket?
They're not just going through all the...
I think they spit on it first.
We got to do the surgery room up real quick.
But no, they were super expensive, and they work awesome. But yeah,
Is
it'd be
your
nice
service
to-
super expensive?
No, we're pretty reasonable. We're trying to look at long-term contracts for some companies, but it's been very difficult to land anything good. But we do a lot of restaurants and houses and stuff, so it hasn't been really lucrative. But
So
It's a start.
It's interesting to me, though, that I would think you'd have more like offices and stuff. They're like, we get people coming to do the fucking carpets once a week,
Or
however.
gyms.
Why don't you come around for
Yeah.
fucking rights, gyms? I'd have you on site all the time.
yeah, we thought that
You can be full capacity. You just got to have one of us here constantly blasting the
just
fucking
going through
everything
every
comes
few
through.
hours.
Yeah.
Laser beam and all these.
yeah. Like you
How
think
do you
that,
say? Virus?
I'm gonna use that in my pitch now, laser beam and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
We thought like
7% is all.
we thought the schools would be like the easiest market for us. That we should be able to get into the schools and help keep the kids safe and the staff safe. But it's been difficult to even get a meeting with a lot of these companies. Like we thought churches would be great because we can go in before every service.
Well,
and-
Jesus protects them. They don't need
That's
you.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus
Yeah, what
never
else?
died from no virus.
Yeah, that's right. What was I thinking?
Never needed a
Mostly
vaccination.
a spear, I think. Gave him a good spearing.
Yeah. Rusty nails killed him.
We're most disappointed with the
Tetanus.
like the old folks' homes. We thought for sure those people would want to employ us, but I haven't even gotten a call back or an email or responded. We dropped off.
Well,
lots
they're
of
into making
material.
money as opposed to spending them, I think.
Yeah, and
You
we we're pretty reasonable. Like it wasn't like we're asking for the moon or anything. Like
Yeah.
so, we were hoping to work fairly cheap just every day, and that was kind of the plan. But no, we can't even get in the door with a lot of them. So unfortunately, but
Well, you should just start like putting sick people in there on purpose.
Jesus.
And then,
that the
boy, I bet you wish you had us in there to clean these people up.
Yeah.
Do you put people under there?
Create your own controversy.
No.
Will it kill my skin if I did that?
You'll get cancer in like 20 seconds.
What?
Yeah, they're super bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
that sounds some pretty cool
you'll
shit.
go blind in like 8 seconds if you look right at it.
First thing I
so-
pictured doing with that thing was blasting myself with it on the range.
Yeah.
As soon as you said you had that, I'm like, I'm blasting myself with that all the time.
You take home some strains from the bar, you're like, just give me 30 seconds here.
yeah, hey,
We're
smell a
good to
little
go.
funky. Just give her fucking one of them. Hey, good to go.
They can just
Deodorizing.
hire me at orgies, and I'll
Yeah.
go around and after their orgy, just
See, that's
light
the
everybody
thing.
up.
This is on a bondage bed, and I was like, you were joking that you wanted to bring UV lights in here. I'm like, I'm gonna get Dave in here to do it first,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it's like, oh, there's all totally clean. you know?
Yeah, you can just lick it after. It doesn't matter. So, don't do that though.
Yes.
Don't do that though.
One of my favorite people. It's on their hard limit list. The no licking clean or dirty surfaces unless they're properly cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can lick a clean surface that's usually dirty, but not a dirty surface. Doorknobs are off the limits. I really get the kick out of the trying to make people lick doorknobs. I think that's a good one.
Toilets would be better. If you can get
Toilet,
somebody to do
yeah,
that'd be-
that's a given.
yeah.
But like, you go to a public mall and make somebody lick a doorknob.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's an episode of Kenny versus Spenny, I think.
Any of that. That sounds terrible.
those guys come to town once in a while.
I love them.
Do they?
Yeah.
One of the few people at the Comic Cons I've actually gotten pictures with. So,
Mm-hmm.
like we do trade shows. My dad's actually another hustle. We sell posters and stuff. But every Comic Con, they always have like a lot of guests that you'd want to go get autographs or pictures. But rarely do I ever do it actually. So I've probably been to, I don't know, 100 Comic Cons
Yeah.
over the years. But yeah, I've gotten like Chris Jericho and Kenny versus Spenny. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's
None of the
it.
Star Wars people.
Those are the
or-
two I
No,
want.
I don't like Star Wars. You know, I like
Chris Jericho.
Star Trek's way better. So,
No,
yeah.
I guess we have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
It's easy to be better when you've got how many seasons of 30-minute episodes versus like
Yeah.
3 hour-and-a-half
Yeah.
movies. Come on.
However, the last Calgary show that was just canceled because of COVID, they were bringing a bunch of The Office cast. And I would have went and got all of them for sure. So.
Man, The Office. Now that it's off of Netflix this month or the end of this month, they're the 21st. It's not going to be on Netflix anymore, and
bullshit.
they're going to be making that Comic-Con circuit like crazy.
Yeah.
That's good money. Well, what was it? We went to the HorrorCon together,
Yeah.
and I was tattooing, and you were selling the posters, and you did so much better than me. And Meatloaf was there, actually. Yeah, right. And like,
Damn it.
it's weird when
I've
you
never
see
been
these
more
like,
jealous of any of the stories you've told.
well, right, yeah, and like it's weird when you see these like real celebrities showing up at a Comic-Con because you wonder what else is going on in their careers that they're not doing movies or music anymore, and now they're just signing
Meatloaf.
autographs.
What more do you want Meatloaf to do?
But their autographs are like $150 to get a signed photo from one of these guys. You wait in line, and and it's funny because my partner, she was raised in a pretty sheltered home, and she learned about love sitting in her basement listening to Meatloaf albums. Like she
Terrible.
found that's where
That's just terrible.
right? That's what love is about because Meatloaf taught her about love. And then she said she finally saw Meatloaf and the two didn't line up. She kind of thought it was like some sort of Fabio character. I would do
He was the guy on the
anything for
motorcycle on the
love.
cover, hey? Yeah, the cartoon character on the
Guy?
cover. Yeah.
That's the guy who's singing it?
His name Meatloaf. Like, what do you expect him to look like?
Yeah, you get a few sexy meatloafs in the mix like that. You know what's funny though? That's kind of a name too. That's like cornerstone now, because like you can't. Nobody else can be Meatloaf now.
Nope.
Nobody can even. Not even amongst your group of friends can you jokingly call somebody Meatloaf. Like even if they constantly eat meatloaf, you can't because they're like, oh, what? Because he's into the band, and you're like, no, it's not. It's the meatloaf. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
He's ruined it. You can't. Adolf can't use meatloaf. You can't use.
Dolphin friends. Yeah. Well, it was a wacky Nazis. My girlfriend,
fucking
she's
dolphin
constantly on
friends.
my case about growing a Hitler mustache for all the cool white guys out
That
there.
you should.
And then she said I should do a soul patch all the way down. So when I put my lips together, it's like a Hitler mustache. It goes straight down. And if I had a neck beard, it could go all the way down. Just one line.
That is a horrifying. I can just picture this like right down to your what do they call that? Your sugar trail.
Treasure trail.
Yeah, there
yeah.
you go.
I get pretty
That's,
hairless. you know.
Horrifying to me.
Yeah, and lots of tattoos cover up a lot of the hair, but
You still have hair, so you go like a side mohawk. That was always my idea, but I can't grow that anymore, unfortunately.
My younger brother, more than a few times, would do the chin strap into the side mohawk.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he was a big fan of that.
I saw one guy with a handlebar mustache and it went down his neck and it turned into a cat shaved into his chest. It was the tail of a cat that went on his face. Yeah, that's
Well,
pretty cool.
and he didn't make his belly button the asshole for what reason? What an idiot.
Yeah.
Hey?
They sit
What
there
a
and
dummy.
play
You
finger it all
go
the
that
time.
far. You go that far.
Might as
you
well
don't
just go
finish the
farther.
fucking job.
Did he lose
I
a
know.
competition, just like Spenny? Might have happened.
No, what did the Spenny do?
Spenny lost similar one to that, I guess, kind of.
Had to shave a cat.
Yeah,
I think one of my favorite episodes of theirs was the one where he put the acid in his juice, and when he had the octopus on his head, and he thought that the octopus was making him trip out.
so good.
And it was like the whole episode hilarious, and at
So
the very
raunchy.
end when they're arguing about it, and he's like, "You did it to me, you did it to me," and he's like, "No, that wasn't me, that was so and so," and then he's like, Oh, sorry about that then. You know, like just straight away, he's like, "Oh, I didn't know." You know, "Oh well, thought it was you." You know, and what's even funnier, that's a real story. That you have to "No, it wasn't me. It was this other asshole." The old acid dose.
That's actually one of my favorite
Pretty
episodes
fucking
too.
funny.
Like, Spenny
Yeah.
walks up behind
So good.
Kenny with a cat, Kenny walks up behind Spenny with a cat on a stick, and the cat was supposed to get the octopus off his head. Oh, it's like the best scene probably in the whole series. It's so good.
These guys are so. Well, the one is so cruel. I don't know who the cruel one is and who the victim is pretty regularly. There's the one
Well, the guy
guy.
who gets a real name is the cruel one.
Yeah.
Spenny doesn't even get to have a real name. His name's Spencer. No, you gets to be Spenny for the rest of your fucking
Spenny.
life. You're gonna be a 75-year-old man. People be, "Who's Spenny?" Yeah, great. You get
the best part about it,
caps on all the time, like you're fucking 6.
Best part about that Comic-Con is everybody that was in line to go up and meet Kenny versus Spenny, they're all super mean to Spenny. Just like they didn't do anything to them, but they're just like a total prick to him.
Yeah.
And I kind of was too. So.
Yeah, a lot.
How do you
Yeah,
not?
no, you given the
Yeah, a little bit,
opportunity to subtly be a prick in public.
So you mentioned there's a few things that we have to avoid talking about to avoid being canceled. Well, you don't want to be canceled.
I don't want to be canceled for sure, but I also be feel pretty bad if you guys got canceled.
I don't think we're gonna get canceled. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. One of the episodes I said, "What about the
sitting
good
in the
things Hitler
basement.
did?" You know, so I think we can we can go some degrees. So yeah, we're not allowed to talk about your
I don't know why we have to talk about what we don't have to talk about.
felony charge.
You know what you do though is you just don't talk about them. You know the list. You don't mention the list even usually.
I don't
It's just
know.
the list that exists. That
Sometimes
you know.
when you go to certain comedians and you heckle, you know they're gonna talk about it directly. We're not gonna talk about any racism. We're not gonna talk about any retardation. We're not gonna talk about any.
It was retardation jokes. Not,
You guys misheard that both times. You guys misheard that both times. There's something wrong with the equipment. You're throwing that hard R on things for some reason. I don't know what they're doing there. Jeez.
Yeah. So we'll avoid those things.
Yeah, we can do that more delicately.
So yeah. Well, special needs or yeah. Well, it's a tough one. Being a relative left-leaning guy who comes from a background of being right-wing. Dave's my conservative friend, and we disagree on politics. We disagree on finances. We disagree on the need to save the world. Dave's of the opinion you save yourself. That's your job, and my opinion is we save everybody at the same time. So I guess yeah. So yeah.
but that's the thing, though. We can have proper discussions about this where we're not angry because of your beliefs or mine.
You're still one of my best friends.
And
man.
yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. If you're one of those people that are unfriending people because they have a different political view or whatever, then you're stupid. That's what I think.
shit.
So, yeah.
Well,
Shouldn't do that.
Stupid.
Well, there's
I mean,
I think there's a movement towards condescending people that disagree with you, and it's.
I guess I'll change my wording of that. Like if they're being an outright dick about it, then then you should unfriend them, right? But yeah, just because somebody's like, oh, I don't believe in defunding the police, or I believe in defunding the police, and that's not enough to warrant them unfriending you, which actually happened to me, believe it or not. But
Believe it or not,
yeah, it was something so stupid, right? But yeah, they went off.
do tell.
so I'm usually unfriended over personal attacks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When things
fine,
get
yeah,
condescending, I'll
Politics are
unfriend.
not. There's usually
Yeah.
going to be too many
See,
lots of
I'll
friends.
unfriend when things get condescending. I'm willing to entertain opinions, and I do my best not to condescend other people when we're debating something or having ideas exchanged. But when I'm like, okay,
what's funny, though?
buddy,
What's funny though is like everybody who's ever had a conversation with you
Thinks
through
I'm
Facebook comment
condescending them.
section is like, oh really? He thinks he's not being condescending. How interesting.
no, for real,
I
because
know, dude. I know. it's so funny to me because it's
Because they think I'm an
noticed
asshole the way
Jeff
I-
made a comment because he was like, "Oh, I didn't mean to like." He kind of did back. I didn't fucking forget about it. But it was just I noticed something on Facebook recently. That even Jeff McDonald had made a comment on something you'd said, and then right away he had to like feel like he had to backpedal because he thought he offended you in the way you responded. And I'm laughing out loud while I'm reading. I'm like, "Oh, Jeff, you."
That's
silly
when I'm
goose.
like, I don't like posers.
You silly goose.
I just
The
don't like
Metallica shit thing,
posers.
that's what it
Yeah.
was, yes. And I was like, oh, fuck, he wasn't directing that shit at you, but that I like seeing that every once in a while. People being like, oh, no, did he swing it at me?
I'm just swinging. But no, like, and that's the thing. Like, if I want to condescend, fuck, I'm a mean bastard. But I do my best not to be that prick. You know, I'm just having an opinion. You know, and I do offend people left and right apparently.
Yeah, well, that's your opinion.
And I'm lefty, and I'm a fucking
Yeah, but
lefty.
Right.
you're allowed to have your opinion, and they shouldn't, be really against it. Really, they should just let you have your opinion. Okay, good. We can
We can
disagree on
disagree.
stuff,
Yeah,
right? And
totally.
good.
Well,
and
and
move on, right?
I think the thing is with you guys though, you understand where each other have come from and what your backgrounds are and how you got to where your belief set is.
And we respect each other as humans.
That's a big part of it too. But at least when you can see the process with someone, then you can understand how they got there. You go, okay, well, I guess I see how you see it that way. I don't have to agree with it, and I understand it at least, and understand that's why you're there. I get frustrated when I have the opposite opinion with somebody, and then I go, well, how did you get there? And they're like, well, it's just what I think. I'm like, okay, well, we're done then. You know, I can't talk to that. But like with you, like especially, I can see you being of the mind, like, why don't you just build it yourself because you've seen so much of that in your life.
And he's done it.
That's exactly your folks, your grandparents, you. That's what you did is build it yourself, right?
Yeah.
So
to be a little
makes sense.
racist
Then you
is-
want to kind of push that on other people too, especially if you've seen the benefit to it, right? Holy shit, you're gonna do it? I'm just like,
Is that an Asian thing? Is it an Asian thing that like you know?
I want to say something so racist right now, but I will not.
I'll get fired. I think it's an immigrant thing.
Well,
I think
right,
it's, I
that's
think it's
valid.
anybody who comes into a new place, even if you're 3-4 generations into it, and you can still feel that where you've seen someone else.
You gotta look out for your
I haven't
family.
seen my grandparents. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. My grandparents are the ones I did own a bunch of restaurants and shit before I was born, and even when I was around, I didn't see how that functioned much, you know. But you don't. I don't see a lot of that entrepreneurship if you're several generations in, especially in this province, because a lot of times we've been farming that long, or we've been doing whatever the fuck it is else people do, right?
Hmm.
When you're coming as an immigrant, a lot of times you got to kind of build your own community because it's not there for you, and you want a fucking grocery store, you got to kind of do it yourself.
Yeah, who here agrees that immigrants work harder than people that are already here?
Oh, I would 100% say an immigrant
there's a
will
lot-
go
there's
up
a lot
heads and
more-
shoulders
yeah, a
above.
lot more to
I would say it's a
overcome.
general statement. They'll do any job. They'll go do janitorial. They'll work at Tim Hortons. They'll do anything, right? Whereas a lot of those jobs are.
Is his mic okay being sideways like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, we want lots of Dave on this.
Yeah. But a lot of those jobs are passed up by
Yep.
the average person here. So I think immigrants in general will work harder, and that's where my grandparents came from. They came from China when they had nothing, like absolutely nothing. They built up a couple of Chinese restaurants actually, and a nice life. So I've seen what hard work has done, and so I just try
And
to.
that becomes like what's handed down to your dad, what's handed down to you is that
Yeah.
entrepreneurial kind
That's
of
right.
like
Oh
if
my
you
God,
want to make
yeah.
a living, you got to
Okay.
do it
So
yourself.
you know what's hilarious, and I never realized this till just now with us doing this, is that was the same thing my grandparents did. Like my grandma, great cook, she opened restaurants all over the place, but that's because they were like gypsies, and they would bounce around from one community to another, going here till they were there, and like for whatever reason had to leave and have just their kids work there, and then didn't pass anything on to them though, like never let them run anything.
Yeah.
Like she was running the restaurant till she was like 75 years old,
Yep.
and then it was like, okay, well, who's going to do it now? And like, well, nobody. Mom's not
Yeah.
doing it anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, okay, well, that ends there. Whereas you've seen kind of the opposite of that, where it was like, well, no, this is how you keep building it. You're going to go maybe build your own now. But
Whatever
like,
business it
yeah,
is.
and you're probably still going to work here all the
Yeah.
time. Help me do my thing. I did this for you as well. Yeah.
Well, I know a couple Asian kids. They're like, I don't want to work at the restaurant. I want to
Yeah.
go do my own thing. And the family's like, no, it's what you do. And like that's a big struggle to get out of the specific.
Well, and I bet you lots of farm families in rural Saskatchewan
same
are
deal.
only 1 or 2 generations off that, even where they've already had that for a bit, where kids are like, instead of staying on the farm, I'm going to go to university,
Yep.
and maybe I won't. Maybe I'll still go into ag, but I'm going to go to university anyways, and then maybe you just don't come back. And
Yeah.
interesting.
That kind of happens in all societies probably after a couple of generations.
Well, that's what I was
So,
thinking too when you were talking, like, well, immigrants here working hard. I'm like, well, that's kind of what the immigrant story around the world is, right? Like, if you're
Yeah.
going from a place where you're more impoverished to a place where you're trying to build a new life, that's always how you can do it.
Yeah.
No one gets to just go to a new place and all of a sudden, like,
Yeah.
no, our house is at the end of the block. There's a car there for you. It's a great little corner office
Yeah.
we got set up. It's like, no, there's a fuck ton of work that you got to do to get there.
Yeah, I think like I can speak for my brother and sister here that we really appreciate the sacrifice and hard work that my grandparents made when they came here, and like they had the hardest start possible, just like everybody else back in the day. And so, then my dad benefited from that, and then I benefited from that. So, so we appreciate everything they did for us. So that's not lost in anything. But unfortunately, I think that's probably happening a lot with the millennial generation. They don't really understand that stuff and see it, right? So,
Do you ever
Well, and sorry, and I think that's still like, a lot of the rural ones around here. That's still they're two cycles ahead yet. You know what I mean? Like, they're even a little bit ahead of that. There's already been that for a while.
yeah, for sure.
See the small town deteriorating, where it's just all like, again, with my job, a lot of it I'm driving around farm to farm to farm out in the middle of nowhere, and it's I bet you 75% of the people I run into are over 50. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody out there starting families and raising it. It's like all these people are like, well, we're done. We're kind of retiring out here, and when we're done, I guess we'll sell it and move someplace nice.
Okay, have you ever seen The Master of None with what's his name, Aziz Ansari? Ansari?
I've seen it. Yeah.
It's a really good series on Netflix. He's I'm pretty sure he's an Indian actor, a Muslim guy, but he talks about being new to America, and he's got a buddy who's Vietnamese, and tells the stories of their dads growing up in India and in Vietnam. He's like, I just really want to get out, and I really want to have a guitar someday. And like, they get to America, and they finally work their ass off to get here, and they give their kid everything that they never had. The kid grows up, and they're like, I finally got you a guitar, and the kid's like, I got a fucking video game. I don't want to play your goddamn guitar. And the dad's like, but I tried everything. And it does that kind of the vantage point of somebody who worked their ass off to give their kid a better world. And then the kids take it for granted because this is their point on,
Well, so hold on though. Like, is that even them taking it for granted? Devil's advocate here. Is that even them taking it for granted, or just not having their perspective?
Yeah,
because,
well, both.
Because from their perspective of the adult in that situation, their ideal was that new guitar. And they're like, look, I'm giving you this thing that I always wanted, and you're like, cool, that's something you always wanted. That's not what I always wanted.
Well, and then the kid grows up with the luxuries that the parents had to sacrifice to get, and that luxury is the starting point. So what they're like, boy, I sure wish I had a Mercedes.
yeah, right.
Like, someday I'll have a guitar of my own. And these parents, like, they're so happy with so little. Like, they got like a little apartment. That's all they need. They've got their television. They, figuring out an iPhone. What more do they need in life? And the kids growing up having a different value system. And I think that's the same thing with millennials that you're talking about. Yeah. They just don't understand what was like even before the internet or whatever parents had to or grandparents had to endure. Right.
Yeah. It's been kind of eye-opening owning the bar, where I've hired a bunch of like millennials, and I see how terrible and useless they are. And,
welcome to the Old Man Hour on Bad Ideas, Good Stories. These kids today, the topic.
Okay.
I'm already getting canceled now.
No. Let's go into that.
Oh,
do they show up for work? Do they get mad that you ask them to do the job?
Yeah, if they show up to work, and they'll do nothing. They're lazy, really entitled, and just really pissy people to deal with, and I hate them.
Yeah, I've had experiences with young tattooers that. I'll tell you the little bit longer story, and then you can bounce your ideas off. I had a young guy who was recommended by 2 or 3 of my chopper builder friends to come work at our shop from another province, and you should apprentice him. He's a really talented artist. He comes to all the chop meets. You should see his art, really good. So he shows up, and he's got quite the portfolio of work, and it's all traditional American. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but if you want to learn a tattoo, here we're going to show you a variety of tattooing. You're going to be doing, some script, some flowers, some American, whatever comes in, some tribal, black and gray, because to me, that's our trade. And if you want to learn our trade, then I'm going to show you what you need to learn to be a tattooist, not just to tattoo what you want to do. So he kind of hangs out with the chopper scene for a little while, and he starts ditching work because he wants to go on motorcycle runs, and I'm trying to get him to do anything other than the traditional American stuff, and he bitches and he moans. A client comes in and she asks for an infinity sign with love, and he talks her into a traditional American black and red rose because he thinks that's cooler tattoo. And I'm like, don't ever do that again in our shop. God. So eventually, one thing led to another, and one day he didn't show up to work because he was on a motorcycle run with the chopper guys, and he lied about when he left the run and why he couldn't get there, and that his bike broke down, all this shit. So my brother told me, he's like, dude, you want to work with this guy for the next 5 years? You're this much stress 3 months in. Are you going to work with this guy? And I packed his shit up right there. And I'm like, look, this isn't going to work out. You got to go. So we went across the city, got another job tattooing, and only has to tattoo the shit he wants to tattoo now because he's a tattooer. So he only has to tattoo American shit. He didn't have to jump through any of the apprentice hoops that takes to learn this trade because he's early 20s, hot rod, look at me, I'm a cool, tattoo motorcycle guy without having to pay any of the dues. In his early 20s, he's got all that underground cred now. And it fucking drove me up the wall. And I don't want to say it's because he's millennial, but I also realized that there's this new generation of like tattooers that are more interested in Instagram than tradition. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, they want shit on their face and the back of their hands to show everybody how committed to the trade they are, and they don't have any other tattoos. So.
I'll make you a deal. If you say his name, I'll say something super racist.
The episode that never aired. Yeah.
No. See, this is how I can get away. This is how I can get away with.
Super racist.
You can always say some people. Have you noticed that some people do this thing, and then you really avoid
I was
getting.
talking about that in the car, Russ. That's the Trump technique.
Yeah.
Well, some people are saying, a lot of these big tough guys, big strong guys,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
coming up to me and they're saying,
Yeah, and that plausible deniability, the escape strategy.
yeah.
It's like,
Well,
no,
I mean, they
it
just
was,
said, though.
it wasn't your kid specifically that was an asshole. It was just a group of
Yeah,
kids that
never
you
again. This is great. We worked forever to get Dave on. Hey, none of it's gonna go.
So,
It was 100% a trap, too. I was not going to say anything racist. So.
oh, okay.
That was-
Yeah. By the way, Dave's a jiu-jitsu guy, so he sets
Laying
traps and
traps.
waits for you to
Setting
fall in and then
traps.
fucks you up.
Yeah.
So what's your experience with millennials? Give us like a situation, like one person.
Okay. I actually only had a problem with two people that I hired. It's one weird girl and this other guy. And holy man, they're just useless people. Like, airheads, just couldn't follow simple directions. And the one guy, he's actually unfriended me because of some comments I made on Facebook about defunding the police. I just didn't understand it, and
Okay.
and that was all it took, right? But he was
Well, it's very important that you defund the police because
Yeah.
he can protect himself in a chaotic society.
yeah. I just wanted some clarification about what it meant, right? It
you
wasn't
call
about
him
his
a name?
post. No, I won't call him a name. But
Did you?
oh no, I actually didn't have any interaction with him. He just basically blocked me on Facebook and then stopped showing up to work, and yeah, that was it. So
He quit
right?
work over it, dude?
Pretty much, yeah. So all right, I didn't really care, but yeah, he was pretty useless anyway, so it didn't matter. But
So is this because these people are like comic video game people on top of being young?
well, the girl, yeah, she's
Is that a flaky?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, but I think it is like the third generation, removed from what we're talking about, and they're very entitled and think that they should just, not have to clean toilets or not have to work harder than they should, and
Yeah, they say that's a common thing, that
Yeah.
3-generation rule, right?
Yeah.
They say like the first generation a lot of times builds the foundation,
Yeah.
maybe even gains some wealth.
Yeah.
The second generation doesn't learn everything that the first generation
Yeah.
learned, because a lot of times they still withhold, and then but they can still build off of that. And by the time the third generation comes along, well, then there's 2 generations of withholding how you fucking actually maintain and build this, and you've only ever seen the benefit of it, so you don't understand where it came from or how to manage it properly, and you usually fuck it up. You usually
That's
fuck it away
super
because
valid.
you don't
Yeah.
get it, right? Oops.
Well,
And it's
I
not
want-
intentional. It's just kind of how shit works, because parents don't want to give everything up to their children. Like, as much as you want to give them everything, you don't want to give every bit of control and power you have, especially if it's a family-built empire.
Well-
if you've got a business built, how do you just give away to your children when you're the one that built it on your own back sweat?
To me,
Front sweat
I'm raising my
probably,
front sweat, under gut sweat.
Yeah.
So with me raising my kid, I want to protect her from a lot of the fucked up shit that I went through, so she doesn't have to endure that. Like that's and me and her mother are on the same page that way. We don't want her on the streets. We don't want her getting into addiction. We want to give her art. We want to give her creativity. But at the same time, I also notice that I don't make her do the same chores that I had to do. And I don't run her through, and I don't expect her to be as responsible. I'm surprised how responsible she is with how little I expect from her. But that's...
Hey, kid, shots fired.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
I'm surprised you're doing as little as I ask you to do.
Well, yeah. But when I do tell her, like, look, you need to clean your room. Oh, my God. Like, why? And I'm like, well, what the fuck? I've expected next to nothing from you your entire life, and now you're 13 and you're starting to bitch at me that I'm asking you to do some basic chores, So it's weird. Yeah, maybe that has factors in.
we can't beat them anymore. It's like that's what I learned.
You think that's a thing?
That's
I
what I
really
learned.
okay. So I really wonder about corporal punishment. With no reason.
Well, let me get started on this.
Okay, because I don't believe in corporal punishment, but I also do. So there's 2 different angles on this. You shouldn't have to beat your kid. You should be able to have a sit-down conversation, nose to nose, and say, what's going on? Why are you acting like this? Now, if that kid's fucking still being a dickhead, You grab them and you make them pay attention. What's going on? Why are you acting like this? And if they take a swing at you, you let them know why they shouldn't take a swing at you.
Yeah, fool's gonna start to swing, and you're gonna find out.
But if you've done the other ones, they'll never get to the point of taking a swing at you. That's my theory. If you've done it right the entire time,
Shouldn't even get there.
it should never
Well,
happen.
and in my mind too, like corporal punishment, like if you're using it, it never includes any other apparatus. You don't get a switch, you don't get a spoon, you don't get a belt, you don't get any of that. An open hand is plenty enough to send a fucking message
children,
across
okay,
someone's
yeah,
ass if that's something you have to do. Because I'm even picturing the situation where it's like communication isn't an option, you know, like where they're so young and they're just flailing and crying and they're going to
Usually
do
if
something that's
they're
going to
doing
hurt
that-
themselves. Smacking the fucking ass never killed nobody.
Usually, if they're flailing and they're crying and they're bugging out, that means that there's been a whole bunch of
Yeah.
errors
Oh, for sure. Yes.
before you got
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
point.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like you haven't been communicating
Yeah.
that the kid thinks that this is an acceptable way to
or
fucking
they're
bug
tired
out.
or they're hungry or they're fucking whatever it is. Yeah, they don't generally just do that for no reason. I'm just picturing like the the hand burned on the fucking stove scenario, right? You know, like, well, yeah, I can let you touch it, I guess, but or I can smack your fucking hand and you go, okay, that hurts, and I'm gonna cry. Exactly, it's gonna be so much worse when this really happens.
The threat of the belt, that was
Yeah.
enough for us to not act up,
Yeah.
right?
The sting of the belt was enough for me not to.
The belt, the
we,
boot,
uh,
the fist,
You know,
the belt, the boot, the fist, the fist.
we never even got there though,
was a
because
Christmas
the belt
joke.
was enough. The threat of it
Yeah.
was enough to not get us to that point. So I think that's kind of lost. Like I'm kind of handcuffed with parenting too, I guess. So I have to be kind of careful. But
Explain
being a new
How does a
father,
person get handcuffed?
I'm not allowed to do some things I like.
Was it number
so,
4 on the list?
I didn't even write it down because I wasn't even going to bring it up. No, but like,
I don't want to go to jail, so I can't say some things I've done. But
Shit, Dave.
but
well,
Sounds like
okay.
a nice guy over here.
can you give somebody a cold shower?
I have.
They need a bath. That's what I said, right? So if they're acting up and you put them in a shower and it happens to be ice cold.
Oh, I see what you're
Well, unfortunate for that is
And they
ice
happen
cold.
to be
but-
strapped down with a towel over their face. And
No, they're just
you
held.
waterboarded them slightly.
They're just kind of held by their hair.
I'm
But,
minute,
Just kind of
I'm
like
minute out of waterboarding. Yeah,
Well,
man.
I
No,
don't-
again, this is even just having this conversation. I'm like, I'm never gonna fucking have kids. I just can't even like picture the
Yes.
right way to navigate it. Even if you want to and still do the right thing, somebody somewhere is still gonna have a fucking opinion on it. And if at some point your kid takes that same opinion, you look like an asshole to them.
Well, straight up, I was so freaked out when my ex got pregnant that I would have a boy, that I would be the most righteous fucking son of a bitch to that child. You know, no reason, but like I was really afraid that I was going to have a boy, and I would be like incredibly strict and disciplinarian and fucking. When I had a daughter, for the first time in my life, I was allowed to be a softie. And it was like, okay, come here, let's make sure. Oh, no, nothing's going to hurt you. I turn into the biggest wuss in the world trying to
Yeah.
be the best dad to a little girl I
Yeah.
could. And I was allowed to be that soft person. Now, if I ended up moving in with somebody with a couple kids and I didn't have any role in that rolling or raising that kid, my lifestyle differences,
Yeah.
like, dude, you have to listen. Fuck you.
Yep.
No, come on, I'm trying to be cool here. Fuck you. What do you do? Like, no, fuck you back is what's gonna end up happening. Like,
What do you do? Let's take a poll.
That's exactly what happened to me. But there must be something to that though, because if she had a little girl, I'd probably be like a total softie too and let her do whatever, right?
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But it's a little boy is just
well, right, and because
Yeah, keep him in line.
Yeah.
Man.
well, and you come from a martial background where in a lot of ways that is the consequence of disrespect is a consequence for disrespect.
It might be the Asian part though, because my grandparents were strict, with my dad, and then my dad is also fairly strict with us, But I think that might be it more. Like,
Yeah.
every Asian family I know, they're all pretty strict.
Corporal punishment
so,
is a thing. Yeah,
it's the way it was, right? And so, I couldn't imagine, being 8 years old and talking back to my dad. 'Cause I would have gotten the strap, right? Or my grandparents. Right? Like, yeah.
I felt my mouth sting
Yeah.
as soon as he said
Yeah,
that. I was
that's
like,
right.
I can taste backhand right there.
yeah. Well, and
But that's commonplace now, right? And it's so mind-boggling to me that kids get away with that kind of stuff now. And
well, I find it. I saw this ridiculous hippie, for lack of a better word, idea that these parents were raising their children with consent from basically conception. When that child is born, they're literally, do you mind if I change your diaper? Can I change your diaper? Do you want food? You don't want food? So, okay, so imagine how that child grows up where their entire existence is, I don't have to do the things I choose not to do. If I don't consent to it, I don't want it done, or it's not going to get done. Now, the sad part of life. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd love to live in a world where none of us had to do anything we didn't have to do. Yeah. But we live in a world where, unfortunately, you have to do shit you don't want. You have to pay bills. You have to,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
You start hitting a certain tax bracket, though, you don't. So you can raise kids like that, and you live in the right climate where you never have to change a tire in the cold.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You live in a nice enough place, and you have a place where you don't ever have to take the garbage out. There's always a guy in the neighborhood. We just sit on the step and they do it. I don't know where it goes.
Trump.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There's people that you go into communities even here where it's like it's all gated, and it's like, well, the guy mows the lawn. Who mows your lawn? I don't know. The guy that mows the lawn does everybody's lawn. You know what I mean?
The lawn gets short. Food
so
ends up in the fridge.
You start hitting those tax brackets. Well, then a lot of that is you could live like that, consequence free, and still, because we're starting to see it now, where there's starting to be people that are having kids that were raised like that. That were like, nope, worked out fine. I never had to get outside my comfort zone once, and I just did this, and it was good. And that's kind of awesome, I guess, because that's a stress-free, strain-free existence where you don't have to ever be put into the situations that would normally build your resiliency. Exactly. Yeah. I agree that a person should be not frequently, but have enough resistance in your life that you understand a little bit what it is to suffer and struggle. And then when you do have to do those things, you can at least not be so shell-shocked by it that you can't exist. You know what I mean? So you can actually still, you know what? I've been bad. This isn't the worst. I can deal with this. We can do this. But if you just never live in a world where you ever have to worry about that fucking end of it, it's always been kind of taken care of. Why would you? Why would you build resiliencies to those things?
And does a person like that ever feel gratitude? If you've never had to struggle for anything and it's always just been given to you on a silver
maybe
platter.
they do in other ways though, dude. Because maybe those are the kind of people when you're hitting that level where it's like, yeah, you go to school, you get a good job where it lets you have enough time off that you can do all this philanthropic work where you go around the world and you do feel immense gratitude from whole communities instead of just the people around you, because we got to spend so much of our time focused on them.
I'd be interested to
so much resources to go around. I can't spread it to fucking everything, right?
I'd be interested to see the numbers of the amount of people that are raised with like a non-traumatic, luxurious, privileged lifestyle that do go into real philanthropic enterprises versus self-fulfilling, self.
Well, hey, you got to wonder, hey, like, are all those kind of things exactly that? Are they all tax havens, or are they all ways to embezzle and shit like that? Or are there people out there that are doing, like, is Bill Gates, you know what I mean? A lot of controversy about Bill Gates, but is that somebody who is just like, no, I built an empire out of the things I was able to do.
I can afford to help some here and there. And I think that seems to be the legitimate.
It kind of seems like it, right? It's hard to see him as a fucking evil villain. I mean, although he does fit some of the criteria, right? Where you're like, I'm a self-built man and I'm kind of a nerd and no one ever takes me seriously. And it's like, well, now I got more fucking money than anybody. Isn't that every comic
villain out there?
That's what I'm saying, right?
Fucking evil guy
kind of fits the thing, and then at the same time, then Bezos should almost be some sort of like superhero type, right? Because he's got all the money too.
No,
I don't know how he made all of his money though to start out with.
Yeah, I think he got a big loan from Daddy, just like.
Oh really? Yeah, I get. Yeah, how do they all do it? No one started out with fucking like no sort of savings, and their parents in the hole when they were like, no, fuck, we're still paycheck to paycheck having our third kid.
So Dave and I, as hustler entrepreneurs, we talk about business plans a lot. We talk about hustles. We were going to do some festivals together before COVID hit and all this stuff. And I'm starting to realize that there is a glass ceiling for self-made individuals. You can only get so far. What is it? Like, do you own your building?
No.
Does your dad own the building his?
Yes, they own that one, yeah.
So that's a smart move, getting into real estate. But they've made it now in 2020 almost unavailable for the average working stiff, even like entrepreneur.
When did your dad buy that building?
Yeah, that's it. Like my grandparents, they bought it, probably in the 80s, right? So,
when it's affordable.
Yeah, in the hood. So it was super cheap.
Before it was gentrified.
Yeah, that's right. It still wouldn't be that expensive. But yeah, I see what your point is. Like, now you need to have like a 30% down payment on any commercial property to even make an offer, right?
Yeah. To get into real estate where real money is made. Because like a lot of these real money people, they start with real estate and then they diversify. You can't do it. The average working stiff cannot get into real estate.
You need to have a lot of like luck and a lot of things go your way to
or handshakes and secret, or not secret, but like that wink and gun deal where, hey, you invest in here and then I'll buy you out, and then like hopefully we won't fuck each other over, and that ends up being those like boys clubs.
I went to school with that guy when our parents sent us away to go to that nice
We're
school.
in the same fraternity, the after college fraternity,
we didn't get to go to that one, Pat.
Yeah, we didn't get to go to that. We're just in
It's fine though. I'm
Lowbrow
fine.
punk rock.
Yeah,
You know,
what do I need?
You need an engine fixed? I know a guy.
Yeah,
That's the winking gun that we got.
I
You know?
Okay, yeah. I'm not that guy.
So back to corporal punishment. This guy Peter, Peter Moscas wrote a book, and it's a real fast little book called "In Defense of Flogging." And I bought this a while ago, and it's just basically an essay. And he puts forward an interesting theory that let's say you got arrested for some bullshit, and you got an option. You're either going to do 2 years in jail or take 20 or 15 lashes in the public square. Which one are you going to take? 2 years of your life where you're taken away from your whatever, your existence, and you go to jail, or you go in the public square, they beat the shit out of you, then they put you in a paramedic, so you get taken, you get stitched back together or whatever, you know, you get your aftercare, and you go back in a civilized society. Which one would you take? Which would you take?
Like everybody, well, anybody who isn't totally averse to taking a horrible licking would probably take the horrible licking.
Yeah.
But then it gets to be, well, what is the point of incarceration in the first point then? Is it just to punish somebody,
or
or is it to help rehabilitate them? And do you beat them into rehabilitation and they go back in fixed? Like, oh, you got
Singapore's got one of the world's lowest crime rates.
What's a murdering worth? You know what I mean? Like how many lashes do I get for? Is it 35 lashes?
Oh, I think
I can take that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'll get another murdering in later, and hopefully they won't catch me. And then I'll take my.
I don't think murder would be.
Well, whatever, right? I mean, it gets to be this weird barter system then that you can like trade off.
Well, isn't all legal like that?
Absolutely, but again, I think the time of the concept of taking your time removed from society, because that's the whole thing, right? Like it's like laws exist so that societies exist, and that's so that we can all maneuver within them without fucking each other over. And as soon as you start showing that you can't function in that society by the rules we've all sort of agreed to by just being in it, well then you don't get to participate in it anymore. And it isn't like, well, here, I'll whoop your ass for a bit and then you get to go back. No, you get to be removed from it. You don't get the benefits of being part of it, and you have to try and learn your lesson in that.
Well, let's say as a child, you see an ass whooping. You're like, I'm not going to do what my brother did. Fuck that noise. I'm not going to go through that.
Yep.
Or you get one or two, not going to do that shit again.
Yep.
Isn't that a preventative measure?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, because I've seen it happen for myself and everyone
long as it
around me
doesn't turn
throughout
people
life.
into
Where it's,
monsters.
but that's the problem, right? Because sometimes it does. Sometimes people like that, and then they look for it and crave it, right?
The masochists out there going to commit crimes
So
just to
you
get their
get that.
whip on?
Sometimes it does, and it still doesn't stop it. It still doesn't necessarily, because you could still be put into a circumstance where you would still do the thing you would never do. You know what I mean?
I just think you could empty out. What do you think, Dick?
Oh man, I would go with the punishment. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
We're all super alpha males and super
Yeah.
tough, so
Right.
that makes
And I mean, if they're like, well, we're going to fix you, it's not going to kill you, you're like, well, whatever. I go limp eventually, or I'm knocked unconscious, or it hurts a whole
I
bunch.
cry.
Yeah.
You look at the Philippines, where they'll shoot you on sight if you're caught with drugs.
Yeah.
Like they'll kill you.
Is there a big drug problem still?
No, there isn't anymore, is there? Right. So I think that that model can probably work.
Well,
So,
here's the thing, though. There's other places that have reduced their drug issues through
Legalization,
treatment,
right?
through legalization. Going the
Yeah.
opposite, instead of corporal, and not even corporal. That is what do you call that? Like you're being
Capital.
executed.
That's
Capital.
capital
That's capital punishment in the street.
I'm not against it.
Yeah,
the
I like both
opposite.
ideas actually. I'm
Yeah,
okay.
like,
I'm okay with either.
You know what?
So,
Let's decriminalize it, but still shoot everybody.
Well, right, at a certain level. Like,
Jesus, dude.
well, okay. So what if you were a victim of a system
Your
and your
words.
addiction, and you're addicted and you're on the receiving end of this thing? Hey, we're going to go through whatever routes we can to get you treatment and for your trauma and heal. But if you're an exploitive individual at the top of the heap that's making millions off of importing illicit drugs, when they catch you, you get taken out back and hung. Treatment and trauma.
Well, you know what? I see. That's it. That's interesting, because then that's the opposite of how it's used. You know what I mean? Like those levels of punishment are never used on the ultra elite. They're never used on the 1%. They're
users are the ones that
bottom.
get the
It's like
beatings,
whoever's the slaves, they get whipped. You know what I mean? It's never the slave owners. And okay. You know what? I've changed my tune now. We start making this available, but it's only to the slave owners types.
Well, right. If you're really
Yeah, no,
profiting
it's-
off of the suffering of the common man, and the common man needs the healing, but the profiteers are the ones that need the
Well,
punishment.
and that's why that's why it's so grotesque when these end runs and shit like that run aground, so to speak, and all these fucking CEOs and stuff are just kind of like, doo-doo-doo, we're fucking making off with billions, and people are losing their livelihoods, living in their houses, and it's like, well, we'll give you some time in jail, I guess. Like, and I guess end run's a bad example because a bunch of them did go to jail. But
Well, it's interesting.
What kind of jail though?
well, again, I don't know that. There's lots of them going
got
to
a
jail for
tennis
2 or
court.
3 years. That's it, and legit, right? You know,
the pool.
you get the Epsteins of the world who still get to go to his fucking office for 5 or 6 days out of the week, and until he was Epstein.
Epstein should be at the rental brothel in C block. That's what you get. You go visit Epstein. That's what he got arrested for.
Where is he right now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You guys think he's dead?
He's still out there somewhere,
Yeah,
probably.
you think
think?
they smuggled him
I
out?
think so.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy.
I don't
I don't
so
think-
is
I don't
that
think he's
what the
a-
Epstein didn't kill himself thing is?
Yeah,
Because
man.
I think the Epstein didn't kill himself is that somebody else murdered the guy. He's dead.
Oh, that's what people think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but I just realized
I
that some
think he
people might
was-
be saying Epstein didn't
Well-
kill himself when that he's fucking
Yeah.
gone. Like they just disappeared him.
Yeah, they faked it, right?
I think he's got some kind of plastic surgery, and he's living in like
Yeah, Brazil or
Thailand,
some
raping
shit.
like 14-year-old girls. Like,
Well,
that's what's
well,
going on.
here's the interesting thing, though, right? If
fucking- I never
he
even
was,
considered
say
that,
he
man.
was, say he was a CIA or Mossad agent, right? Because that's what they do. But look at Ghislaine Maxwell. Like her dad was a fucking legitimate spy. Her sisters wrote code for, I believe, the CIA. So the fact that she wouldn't be attached to that in any way is almost weird. You know, when the rest of her family's in it. So let's just say for a second that Epstein's existence, like say he was already doing these things and he was caught, and they say, okay, cool, we're gonna need you to keep doing this, and we're gonna get you an island, and we're gonna keep helping you steal these funds from all these really rich and wealthy people, but we need you to do that, so we got compromising information. So all these powerful people, and not just here because we're the CIA, so we're all over the world. We got Prince Andrew, we got whoever we need to get fucking compromise on. That's what we're gonna do. That's where we're gonna use you. So could be he's just a horrible predator monster and was using his own influence to make his own wealth and do that, or maybe there was some sort of CIA, for example, backing. And then
There's
if that's
also the
case,
potential that he's smart enough to know that if he gets, what do you say, compromise?
Yep.
If he gets these like files
Yep.
on the homies that come by and do this shady stuff,
Yep.
then he can use that
Yes.
as a key
Well,
to
absolutely,
get where he
right.
wants.
And
it doesn't necessarily need to have puppet masters.
well, here's the
behind
thing, though.
scenes.
Here's the thing, though. Madams have done that shit for years,
Oh, yeah.
right? They got the
Heidi
little black,
Fleiss and-
exactly. But
yeah.
they've got politicians, whatever, locally, maybe nationally.
Or the mob.
There's not a lot of them that have compromising material on people internationally and at that high of a level. And so like either he's really, really good at it, or maybe he does have some sort of connection that helps him get closer to these people, so then they got their fucking hooks into him, so then you get him into jail. Fake as fucking death, because I mean they talk about how we didn't see any footage of his body being removed from the cell. All the circumstances are kind of fucked. He tried to kill himself allegedly once or twice previously. So there's all these like weird circumstances around that. So say they do get him out and they're hiding him out somewhere. That could also explain why we haven't heard fuck all about Ghislaine Maxwell. I have heard very little about that case. What's happening with
Ghislaine
that?
Maxwell did
everything's
not kill
everything's
herself.
kind of slowed down because of COVID. But hers right before Christmas, hers was one of the only that actually like had a case heard, and it was to try and like get her some time with her lawyer or some bullshit like that, and they just denied it all. They said, no, you're not getting fuck all out of this, which was good. But it's also interesting that we're not hearing more, because she's someone who would know everything he would know.
Yeah, she could crack the top off the case.
Exactly. If the government doesn't need to know what she knows, you know what I mean? It means they already know what she fucking knows, because the CIA knows what she knows. And then they're trying to figure out some way, well, how do we navigate this? How do we, with this very public fuck, like everybody in case knows she exists, everybody knows Maxwell exists, if he doesn't still currently. How do you navigate that without hiding him, right? Like
Where'd all that stuff go? Like they raided her place.
all the
and-
fucking computers,
they're like,
and
we have,
whatever. Like,
we're gonna have all this like dirt on everybody, but where's all this stuff? No, we just we're focused on the next season of Big Mouth or
Whatever.
or something right now. Now we're on the new season of something on
Immigrants,
Netflix, and then that's completely forgotten about, right? And so did he really disappear, or did he really get killed? Who knows?
Well, there was if you want to go down the conspiracy thing, I'm very careful about this one, right? But like you remember, well, many people don't anymore. Immediately preceding the coronavirus outbreak, there was riots everywhere. There was riots happening, the yellow vests in France that were in the streets fighting the police. In Hong Kong, huge riots. There was people protesting government oppression all around the world, and it was starting to happen all in North America. And all of a sudden, poof, there's this huge virus. And that was one of the first conspiracies, and everybody's like, where the fuck did this come? And what a weird time. But then it didn't stop the riots, because people got cooped up in their house and started communicating because they didn't have to go to work. And all of a sudden they're communicating on social network or social media, and they're like, something's wrong. Let's fucking get out on the streets regardless. And I think that was like a backfire.
yeah, exactly. they were saying like a lot of these protests and whatnot, numbers were way bigger than they would have normally been.
people had to go to work.
Exactly, people still being working, school, and living their lives, and not having time to coordinate with everybody else. But I think most anybody who studies like game theory and shit like that would have figured that out. They just said, no, once everybody's at home and they got all this time to talk, all we got to do is plant some things. And that's why these social media campaigns to fucking manipulate political discord and
Operation
like
defection
to stir it up and to
Russians.
tamp stuff out. And it's all very effective and useful. And I
have a different perspective.
Was it because you're taller than us? Is that the reason?
Yes.
Unreal.
That 2 inches makes a big difference.
That's what she said.
I've got advantage just that you are not aware of.
I sensed it from you.
I think they want us to be inside to keep us docile. They know that we're not going to have any kind of revolution, right? They just know that. There's no way that Canadians or the Americans are going to revolt and storm the White House, and they'll do that in like Venezuela or a place like that, but in Canada and North America, that's not going to happen.
Well, what are we really revolting? What are we really?
Well,
like the black community in the States.
Everybody knows what's going on. Like everybody knows that the corporations are killing everybody. Like it's Costco, it's Amazon, it's Walmart, it's all these companies like that are just milking us dry right now, and they're killing us. They want us to go home, buy our $500 giant TVs, watch Netflix for $12 a month, and just stay docile. That's it. And we're not going to put up a fight. And we may get angry about some Facebook posts, but are you going to go grab a gun and go to the Parliament building and do anything? No, you're not. Because you're not going to. We're not like that. It's just that's how we're conditioned.
And I really think the people that have been most fucked over have been the most disarmed and injured. You take a look at the indigenous community, right? Where they're riddled with addiction, riddled with abuse, riddled with like health issues as a result of this. They're the people that really should be protesting, like fuck this system.
But do they have the means?
No,
they don't,
because it's been
taken away
systematically removed.
And we're the same too. Like we're just removed differently. Like we are conditioned to watch Dancing with the Stars and to watch like whatever new movies coming out. We're at Disney Plus. Oh, Mandalorian, great. But we're not focused on the big picture here, which is like, I can't go anywhere without wearing a mask. I can't, I can't stand 3 feet away from somebody without, the Karens of the world like freaking out at me, right?
Well, so, for me, I think it even carries over where everything we do is registered and licensed and put into a database, whether it's like registering my car, having the right to drive my car. Now the police on their vehicles when they drive by have an automatic camera that just scans your license plate, sees who's supposed to be driving that car, immediately runs your criminal record check just for driving your fucking car. Like my daughter had a birthday party here. The police showed up because they were driving down and somebody's vehicle was unregistered on the street. And they came up and they said, we're looking for so-and-so. They have an unregistered vehicle. My brother had to go out and pay a ticket. Where's freedom? That's no longer freedom. That's just surveillance state, right? No,
that's just taxation on the street right there.
Yeah. We're taxing you.
Yeah, and how are you keeping them safe in any way at that point, right?
Your
just
revenue,
punishing them
revenue
for what,
collected.
Forgetting it was the end of the month. Like,
but as long as you've got luxury and we've got your TV and your booze and your drugs and like your bland pastimes, your comfortable addictions, nobody's ever going to question the nature of why am I being kept in this little cage.
You got to look at it like during the Black Lives Matter stuff happening in the States, like they had a lot of riots and all that stuff, but did it do anything? It did nothing, right? You need the bulk of the population to be doing this, and half the population won't even be enough, and no matter what damage they do, and that's
you
it.
can always
That's,
employ one half of the poor to kill off the other.
Here's what I think, though, is like Rome thought the same shit, though. You know what I mean? And like that shit still crumbled one day. And it doesn't have to be necessarily through intent of like overthrow and armed whatever. It could just be shitty mismanagement. Detroit is a shell of a city when it was the most fucking well-to-do city in the U.S. like 60 years ago, right? And this shit happens, man. And with that, too, I think in the U.S., I think a lot of people fuck the numbers up on this because everybody thinks it's half and half. Everybody thinks it's, well, one half of them's red and one half of them's blue. And it's like, well, no, only half of them voted. You know what I mean? Out of 330 million people, only 160 million of them voted. And of that, Yeah, half of them. It was pretty close, but it still wasn't that close. It was still an 8 million fucking vote difference. So you split that down. You're getting down to like maybe 25% of the people are actually voting Republicans, and you can't argue that there's a bunch of them that stayed home.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what
a
I
good
mean. So
point.
the people who stay home and don't vote and don't give a shit, if you ask them, well, which way would you? If you were going to get off your ass and actually go do it, well, I don't know. I'd probably throw in at Biden is going to be the majority of your answers. Very few people who are like, no, I'd still go with Trump.
Those people
aren't
with an
getting
invested
down there and going down and voting,
interest
right?
in keeping things
So I think
conservative
people
and
think the
right,
numbers
they
are
go
skewed.
out to the polls.
Exactly.
And-
That's why they seem so vocal and they seem like they're half, because they're half of who's represented, but they're not actually half of the population down there.
They designed the system though, so it doesn't matter, right? Like
Yeah,
it's-
fucking
It
gerrymandering.
really
Yeah.
does not matter. Like doesn't matter if they're voted Democrats. They all answer to like a few people in the world, and that's how the system is designed. So it just benefits like a handful of people. They've made it so that we're never gonna stop it, and it really is relevant who's voted into the White House or.
Well, it's kind of showing that, right?
Canadian
Well, I
government.
mean, you can do it poorly, right? I mean, with his mismanagement on so many different things, a lot of things got worse. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't like things totally disintegrated and nothing.
No.
It don't matter how hard he fucking tried to.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? That's what can still happen. You can still have infrastructure failure in enough of your major cities where you got a bunch of flints all over the place. You can't drink the fucking water, and then they're not habitable. Well, all of a sudden you get to be a fucking third world country in a
Yeah.
pretty quick
Is that going
span.
to affect these billionaires at all though?
Oh no, they'll scooch off, but that's always
Well,
been
that's,
the case, right?
that's the
Yeah, well,
model. That's the business
the
model.
kings and queens and lords of the day never
doesn't
fucking
matter.
stayed while the city was
Yeah.
on fire. They packed their shit and went
right.
to wherever everything else was, right?
Yeah, it
Let
doesn't
the
matter to
peasants
them.
deal with
So
it.
That's the Walmart model. They'll move to a small town,
Yeah.
destroy all the local community, and
Yeah.
if the bottom line isn't making enough, they'll
Yeah.
just uproot
Hey.
and fuck off and leave
Well,
a dead community.
And if that's your core business structure that flourishes, you know, is just a parasitic system that destroys everything else around it till you have monopolies, how long before that whole system becomes just that, and then that fails because
I
that's
think-
not something that's sustainable?
This will be the quote unquote revolution, is more people waking up to the fact that this is the system that we're living in and figuring out strategies to step outside of those systems, whether it's not trusting banks anymore or not participating in or supporting the companies, boycotts, voting with your dollar, you know, voting with your feet and just not going to those environments that are supporting that. When you talked about the voting, the Republicans voting in the States, it reminded me of this documentary called Jesus Camp that was put out in 2006. And in that show, I forget the exact statistics, but they basically say the evangelical religious conservative right in the USA make up for something like 78% of the homeschool kids. So all of these people that want to homeschool their kids, 78% of them all around the USA are these like religious nutbags, but they make up 25% of the voting population. Yeah. So
Right.
that says that when Trump started saying, I'm a Christian and I'm holding the Bible, he's exactly pandering to these people. And these are the people, he's trying to get that 25% of the vote with that say, he's Jesus. He's down for Jesus. I'm down for Jesus. I don't need, I've been homeschooled.
Yeah.
I believe that the earth is 6,000 years old and that
Yeah.
like the dinosaurs were a test of faith put there by Satan. He's trying to pander to those fucking people, right? And when he can hold a Bible and Jesus, you know, blah, 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 we're doing our prayer circles. That's what he's trying to get. He doesn't believe in any of this shit. He's trying to appeal to like the voting brainwash.
And in defense of those people, they feel looked down upon from the other side.
Because they're morons.
Well, it's okay, but they still can vote. You know what I mean? They're still registered and they're still going on, and they still have
democracy.
opinions and still have to live, right? So it's like, how do you meet those people in a middle ground where you're like, well, we can still work together, even though you don't think that I'm Jesus, right? Like we can still figure this out. But that's wild.
Well, homosexuality is a sin, you know. Like that's the thing. When you let these fucking weirdos have a voice, I think there needs to be a meritocracy where if you're a moron, you don't get a voice. You should basically like some basic
We'll
vote.
get like an implant when we're born, and it's like your voice is only as loud as your fucking
Rational
is the
fucking thought.
area you're in. Like if you're around a bunch of other really dumb people, okay, you're allowed to be louder. But if you're around other people that are smart, you shut her down a little bit, bud. You're gonna need to listen for a while. Yeah. We find out both of us are just quiet all the time. All of a sudden, you're like, fuck. I thought I knew what I was talking about.
I don't know. I don't fucking know. But that's okay. So I've come to the conclusion, and Dave might agree with me, being an entrepreneur and trying to make your own way and trying to struggle out of your class that you were born into tends to be the side that says, I want to keep what I've made. I've struggled my ass off to get somewhere. I need to keep the little that I've been able to scratch,
Absolutely.
which makes the young entrepreneurs, or at least middle age, because I'd say our beards are gray now, a little more leaning to the right in that way, as opposed to those people that don't have anything and haven't had to scratch and struggle. They tend to be a little more liberal, where I think this is where the left loses the middle class. You know, the middle class vote, because those people will go out and vote saying, you know, I want lower taxes because I've struggled my ass off to have a little bit and I don't want to lose that. As opposed to the people that are at the top, or, you know, they're in the same boat. They don't want to pay more taxes, but the people at the bottom are like, fuck it, I don't have anything, you know. So I'd
Well,
like
and I use the programs that taxes pay for, you know, and then that's the problem too, is because a lot of people that have built themselves, you know, they have had to use different government programs to get funding to buy new equipment to get their business going, or whatever the fuck it is you got to do along the way, right? So they have time to use those same programs, but then they've seen the value in it themselves and you're like, well, fuck, I built this though. I can't just give a bunch of it away by doing that, you know.
So if Dave works his ass off at his bar for X amount of money, cool. I can pay for a new soda fountain. I can pay for these dividers I need for COVID, and I can, you know, get some advertising, and I've got enough to pay my mortgage. And then someone comes along and says, yeah, but we need 30% for the people that you had to kick out of your bar that were all strung out on drugs.
Well, see, and so that's where the problem gets to be too, is because people would gladly hand their money over for something they see value in. But if they continually go, look, I keep paying more in fucking tax, and I never see the benefit to these social programs.
Taxation without
all I ever see
representation.
is how bad it is down by the fucking lighthouse. That's all I ever see, you know. And then people go, well, if that's what my money's going towards, well, then I don't want to go into it. And it's like, well, that's we got to hold more people accountable then, because if that's the results you're getting from your fucking money, by all means, you shouldn't keep paying for that product. You should get a better product. And how do we do that? You vote somebody in that's going to fucking make a change or do something different. Like, you can't maintain the status quo all the time and then go, why is nothing changing? Well, because you keep fucking doing the same shit.
Oh, man. You don't want to know what I think.
I do.
David. This is why we have you here.
This is why I love Dave, because he's gonna fucking. I think we should kill them.
Oh, shit.
See, quite the opposite, actually.
Okay.
I think that we should have an island that we can, if you want to be a crackhead, that we'll put you on this island. We'll call it Crack Island. And you get all the crack you want. And we just keep you away from everybody else.
Yeah.
And I would gladly support that. I would
So those
gladly
are safe
pay.
injection sites. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put the
It needs to be like geographically.
I'm talking,
I know what you mean. I know
I'm
what
talking
you mean.
like Prince Edward Island. Just throw them all there, right? And,
Who needs Prince
Sorry,
Edward
Pete,
Island?
yeah,
yeah, that's what that place.
yeah, it's probably a beautiful island.
But I think that would solve all
None
our
of it.
problems.
Yeah.
Like, you make it free, and then the drug dealers, you know, you kill them, and
Oh, okay,
all the
there you
crackheads go to Crack Island. There you go.
Anybody who's
Okay.
already got the addiction.
So I got the
absolutely go there.
theory, the same theory, but about Macho Bro Island, where if you want to be that, like, you know, AR-15 masturbatory, you know, Rambo tacked out guy, you can go to Macho Island and live out your fascist fantasies, where if you fuck around, you get shot.
That is Saskatchewan.
Well, no.
Isn't it?
Or if you want to be, you know, like Joe Hunter, serial killer, a sports hunter, go out to this island. We'll fucking stream it on the internet. You can
Jesus.
subscribe to it. You can sign
even
up. Do you want to
darker.
join? Go to
Right.
Hunt Island, and they get outfitted and they get
Most
all the-
dangerous game.
Yeah, most
like
dangerous
it.
game. And if you want to be that fucking antisocial, violent guy, and you want to live out that fantasy, go live out that fantasy.
I'd pay $12 a month for that.
Right? I think a lot
sure.
of people would, just to watch this extreme violence. And if you're really into that and you want to go live that, you want to be a school shooter, or you want to be a bomber, you go out to fucking Macho Island and you can live out your violent fantasies and stream it. You know what I mean? And then you'll make money to support it, and you remove that. It's free. You know, you remove that element from civilized society and you go off over there. Same thing if you create a state or a little island where
Crack Island,
Meth Island, all of it. And guess what? This stuff is available for you. If you want to go drown your sorrows, and we'll pick up your body when you overdose, and we'll just go put it
Oh, you
into-
can't come back. That's another rule.
Well, no,
you're on Crack
And you
Island
can't
forever.
come back.
Unless-
Sometimes you can't come back.
You know, and it could be a holiday place. I'm going to go.
Yeah, I
to
guess
crack.
you
I don't
could
think
have,
it'd be
like-
as full as you think, though. I don't know a lot of people like choose to be crackheads.
Oh,
like,
there'd be-
like their
that would be
circumstances
full.
dictate.
Oh,
You
my
know,
God.
like nobody starts out when they're 4 and they're like, you know
Okay.
what? When I'm 14, crack's what I'm going to be into.
No,
Same
but there's
violence.
lots of like.
I agree, but that's what I'm also picturing your island being pretty empty, also because a lot of those
They die quick.
No, well, because of those predatorial types, they don't want to fair hunt. They don't want to hunt something that like knows it's being hunted. They want victims. They want control.
Well, that's when they get caught. They get sent there. without the.
Oh, this is after they've already done whatever rampage.
Yeah,
they're
you
gonna
could do it
amongst
voluntarily,
us.
or you could be sentenced.
Oh, okay.
to
I
it.
thought this was like a thing. It was like,
Well, I
you
think-
want to get it out of your system. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like
That
that
isn't
isn't
going to be cannibalism.
I think this would be like 100% voluntary. You sign off on it. You're going to Crackhead
See, I feel like
Island
this,
for
this
life.
place already exists too. You know what I mean? Like, there's parts of the world where I'm sure.
Prince Albert?
See, again, most of this is in Saskatchewan. You just have to pick a community. Yeah. No, yeah, I think, yeah, you guys can make all your dreams come true already.
I think I'm canceled
already
in
exists.
Prince Albert now.
You just have to start some sort of bus service that gets people out there. That's the only problem is the transportation to it.
I guess Macho Island, you can just move to Texas.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, everybody's
what's
going to have
going
a
on
gun, highly armed. You
Joe
can fuck
Rogan's going to
around.
be the governor any minute now down there.
Yeah.
He'll be running it. I'm sure he moved down there.
Argue against me against Crack Island. Why wouldn't it work?
Why wouldn't it work?
Okay, you voluntarily go, you get all the crack you like. You're taken out of our society, so
Not just crack. It's any. It's
any
like-
drugs, whatever you
yeah,
like.
okay.
Yeah, whatever you like.
Oh, damn.
And yeah, you just can't go back.
Well, is
So
that the only place? Is Crack Island where you can do these
Why
drugs?
can't you come
you
back?
get all the alcohol you want.
no, I like-
well, we
I
want
like
you.
to do drugs in
we
regular
want you
life.
away from society. Like
know, man.
you're a fuck up, and you just
Okay.
want to get
What's
get
the
like.
line?
I'm going to pause here.
However, I'll just. You can come back if you clean up.
Yes.
And they'll have programs on Crack
Okay.
Island if you want to change your life, and you have to stick to that program for I don't know.
Well, you have to
6 months.
prove that you're sober and you
you're
want to live a
serious and you
serious
wanna do
life.
it. Sure, then you can come
You
back.
can exist on Crack Island without
Yeah.
relapsing.
But yeah, like if you don't want to be at the lighthouse causing problems and
Oh, yeah.
struggling to get enough money to buy your drugs, you can go to Crack Island. Get
Oh, yeah,
all,
for sure. You
Get
know,
all your
all the shit
government
you need.
controlled drugs, so you're not going to overdose and all that kind of stuff.
And if you do, we take care of your
that
body.
sucks. That sucks for you. Yeah. But
I'm picturing like
that's-
a Jurassic Park type island too,
that'd be
like where
sweet.
like they're doing experiments and it's like,
Well,
no,
that's
they're
fair.
running free out here. It's
Yeah.
fine.
No, that's
that
fair.
one's got wings now. He's loving it.
Okay, so it's an absolutely decriminalized environment where you can use
Island
any
of fucking
drug.
Dr. Moreau is what that shit turns into.
Yeah,
real
that's pretty
goddamn
good.
quick.
But I'll go against it. Like it kind of
Get
makes
half
sense,
of Val
doesn't it?
Kilmer though.
Well, no, with the right checks and balances in place, where it's like, yeah, if you want to be a drug addict, instead of being homeless, we're giving you an area that you can go do it. There's going to be treatment available there. If you want to get out, you can't leave until you're ready to be a functioning member of society. But we'll take care of all of your escapist needs and your addictions in this designated.
And they have every necessity. Like they have a house or
Don't
whatever.
call them
or
dirt
room
bags,
or-
and you might have a.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't this,
like-
isn't this why
they get
colonialism
tracks,
existed
yeah.
though? Wasn't it to do just that? I want to take over and I want to do whatever I want hedonistically wherever the fuck I am, and then when I come back to jolly old England, I'm a lord about the land, and then when I'm in the fucking Congo, I got a necklace of ears and like it's universal soldier,
Jesus
you know,
Christ.
like.
Well, that's a little different. This would be a treatment facility, but until you're ready for treatment, you get free access to whatever escape you want. That
Why
makes
not?
sense.
You're causing less
This
damage.
is an ever
into the
evolving
public.
crack
It
island.
is causing
honestly.
less damage to a
You guys are
society.
starting to talk
Yeah.
me into it, honestly.
Yeah, no matter how you look
How
at
many
it,
video games can I play?
Well, right. You
there'd
know?
be a significant reduction in crime if that happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be significant.
Breeding? Breeding would drop significantly?
That too, yeah. You could. I'm not gonna say that word.
Breeding?
Yeah.
That
Oh, wait a
word.
minute, I'm not allowed to say that? Jesus. You
already-
weren't going to say that? I didn't think there was anything negative about that.
Already crossed the lines.
So okay, so yeah, that's well, realistically, a lot of property crime is a result of people trying to fuel addictions, and addictions are a result of trauma. And I'm a firm believer that if you can heal trauma, you can heal addictions.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that's been fairly scientifically
Yeah.
proven.
And they obviously have some programs for that here already that exist, right? I think
Can
the
we bring
problem
those
is-
to the island?
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, as an out, like to get out, you sign up. Hey, I'm going to go do whatever I want. And, you know, I don't know how the fuck they could afford it. Would there be a universal basic income? And then like
They would need money.
Yeah,
Like,
UBI,
you have
yeah.
you have all your drugs, your food, your water, your
Murder all you want.
your house,
the
whatever
best
they
one
live
is no
in,
murder on
you know,
the
whatever
side.
You know
some kind
what?
of.
I'd just move there for shits and giggles.
See, we're talking
I'm
ourselves
not
into
even an
this.
addict. You
There's
give me
something
free
wrong.
food. and
If you
free-
guys, if you know that's what you want to do, like it's not going to be nice. You're not living in
How big is
palaces
this
or
island?
anything,
Is this
but
going to become...
how big is
Canada?
Prince Edward Island?
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I guess, yeah, we're still talking B.
None of it. Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like a man camp up in the middle of fucking the Arctic, but
Yeah.
you can get as high as you want. And
You know, it's not going to be like a shanty town, but you know,
well, man, that's not a bad. It's not a bad model. It's an interesting hypothesis.
Really,
I
how
think
much
it's more
would it-
You guys
considered.
don't dream very big, hey? You're like, well, it's not going to be a shanty town, I guess. You know, like
yeah.
you can make it whatever you want. Your mind, Dave.
Well, I
like a
could.
floating igloo in the sky.
I actually think it's a lot more considerate than
hover
like
up to.
Macho Island, you know, where everybody just murders everybody. This would just be an escape island where you can just drift off into whatever fantasy you want, and then just have all your basic needs met until you want
Yeah.
to come back to a functional.
And
I
society.
thought that made us all soft and not able to deal with any sort of
just imagine, like,
struggle and strife. our constant yearning for a softer life.
Look at like obviously they have low self-esteem and dignity because they're having to go out and beg panhandle for money every day, and so they're they wouldn't be looked down upon as much, right? And
Well, it's a
so
community.
and you have people that are be helping you maybe.
So
Like,
you're
you
solving
want to
drug
help.
issues and homeless problems because that takes care of that too.
That's
You just,
right.
I just don't have a place to live.
Yeah.
Dave, what else can we solve with this drug island of
Yeah.
yours?
And you do have access to these people that want to help you. Like, hey, you want help? Great, we'll help you. They treat you with respect and maybe give you some positivity in your life. And then, okay, I know
Counseling's available if you want
That's
it.
right. I don't have to end up being a meth head. Like, I can maybe turn my life around, and then you go through the steps. Whereas here, that's never going to happen because you're product of your environment. You grow up. They probably grow up like this in their house when they're like 4 years old,
And
that's
it's
all they know.
criminalized.
Yeah, and and then you're having to join a gang and break into houses just enough to support your habit or deal drugs and hurt more people. Where a lot of this cycle is kind of stopped by this.
All the water because of it being an island. They can't get on there to keep messing with you.
That's right.
Papillion.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if anybody's coming in and got a
right.
bad intention, we can better be able to swim.
Yeah.
Because it's an island.
Well, it's very interesting scenario, and I
Because
think
of all
that's
the
if you
water.
worded it nicely and you didn't say "fuck you're a scumbag, go to Crack Island," hey, we're gonna establish a
Yeah.
decriminalized drug zone where you can go and you can use whatever escape you want for as
Portugal,
long as you
huh?
want, and then once you're done, you can get your facility and you can come back, but you need to be on board to work in a civilized society. I also had a model.
Or you can take those 15 lashes we were talking about earlier.
Well, it would almost like be a
We
treatment.
need
It would
all the
almost like be a
options,
treatment
yeah.
scenario
Yeah.
where if you really feel the need that you want to escape the hard life of this world, you go off to escapist utopia. I had the model like if instead of putting people in these big blocks and cells and just housing them, you put them in China. They've got factory cities. Like there's a factory with 800,000 people living in the factory. They've got their own like food manufacturing. They've got their own medical. They've got transportation within the factory. You wake up, you go do your job. Like there's straight up kids are born in the factory and people die in the factory. Now that's where they
And then they're
choose to
fed to the
live.
children in the factory.
Yeah, well, maybe, right? But if we could replace our prison systems with this, you go to jail, and instead of saying, hey, you just got to wake up, go eat, find something to do, go home, go for lunch, find something to do, and just hustle all day and fucking do whatever you do in jail to pass time. You wake up, you go do a job, you learn a trade, you make your money, and the more consistent you are in your work, the earlier you get released. You come out, you've got a trade skill, and you're able to be put into a secondary industry, whether it's working in a factory or any of the stuff like construction. Yeah, exactly. You have a trade. You have a trade, and you've been established your entire fucking time that you did your sentence to a structured wake up, go to work, get my breaks, go, and then you come out and you're ready for the work world when you were never given those skills before you went in.
I'm not even ready for it.
Well, right? It might be a game changer.
See, that's like a transitional, point from, they go Crack Island, they want to make the change, they go to that transitional area.
Yeah,
where
that's an idea
they're-
too.
Well, and they do have a bit of that in the U.S., but it's through the privatized system, so it's more like it's not
slave.
So, exactly. It's
Yeah.
not like, hey, we're teaching you a trade. It's like, no, we need these things cranked out sweatshop style.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Oh,
So,
Nike Crack Island. So Nike,
Nike.
just makes shoes there. And
Well, yeah, we
That'd
privatize it.
be part of the rehabilitation is you go and you make shoes every day.
That's
You hear
right.
that,
You get
Nike?
up there, you get in there.
12 cents an hour.
Everybody's
Yeah.
branded with a
But you only
swoosh.
got to work as many hours as you feel like because it's still Crack Island.
Yeah.
You got shit you got to do, like more crack.
Oh shit! You could give them a bunch of drugs and send them to work, and they could be high at work, sewing together,
Why
sewing
do
their
we keep saying
fingers
they?
onto
Hey?
like.
Why do we keep saying they? They're going to send us. When they're going to send us to this island, I want to be able to go there and be on crack because I feel like we're talking ourselves in just an island that we want to be on for
Well,
a
we're
bit.
kinda there.
So we can kind of just be like, you know what? I just went and lived on it for a while. And what I'm concerned about also is like, do people know what you did while you're on the island? Is it going to be like you
What,
get off
drugs?
there? Well, whatever it is.
Are we
you
talking
end
about
up
this
doing
being
while
a
you're on
prison,
Crack
or just
Island.
like what your favorite drugs are?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know what this fucking thing could all entail. I'm just saying, like, is this stuff that like what happens on Drug Island stays on Drug Island, or is
Well,
it,
man,
like,
okay, I'd love to live in a
broadcast when you
soci-
come back?
Okay, my heart of hearts.
shit.
Heart of hearts. I'd love to live in a society where it would be acceptable to have like some rails out here, and everybody does rails, and we have a conversation, and it's on camera, and nobody's fucking bitching about anything, because what we do with ourselves isn't a crime.
It's working its way. Washington State, that's legal now.
What blow?
Yep, everything's
Fuck off.
decriminalized. For anything for personal use, decriminalized. If they think you're
Interesting.
moving it, then you're gonna fucking have to do
Now
it
the American
least.
government can admit that they traffic cocaine, as opposed they just profit from it, as opposed to like,
There will be no progress without regress.
Yes.
I'm taking a hand along the way.
well, you know, or you know, kind of like we could be smoking weed here. It's decriminalized or it's legal.
Well, I've been.
And- yeah, you've been okay. Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
vape, I
you've been
guess.
smoking
I've been
weed.
smoking.
We could be on edibles or psychedelics or whatever. What the fuck? It's my consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as I'm not like incurring any damage or costs on the medical facilities, like, you know, as long as I'm not drawing off of the medical industry, you know, like the average taxpayer doesn't have to pay for my well-being, then what the fuck do I do with my consciousness? What does that have to do with anybody else? You know, as long as I'm not well, tobacco, alcohol, what kind of drain are those putting on our medical system? Tons, but they're legal. You know, so if I do some drugs here, you know, which I don't do drugs, but if I chose to, what fucking damage am I doing to the greater society? As long as I'm not out robbing people to sustain a habit, or the people that are supplying me are not victimizing people. They keep saying addiction is the problem. But, well, why is gambling a sanctioned addiction? Why is tobacco a sanctioned addiction? Alcohol or any of these other
It's the
things?
things you do to feed the addiction that are the problem.
Yes.
And when you can do those other ones legally, a lot of times you'll find legal methods to go and do them. And if there's ones you have to do illegally, well, then you're already like, well, I'm already doing this illegally. Why don't I find an illegal method to make this? Instead of just working harder at work so I can buy more crack, I'll just steal some stereos.
Legalize it, tax it, and put that extra tax money into proper healing, proper treatment to get people out of these things. If you're a problem gambler, give them free access to get out of gambling. You know, take the money you're making from the fucking casinos and put it into treatment for that addiction. Same thing with cocaine or heroin or, you know, Dilaudid. Why do the pharmaceuticals like Oxycontin, Dilaudid, why are they able to get people addicted? They're fucking cartels.
Well, they're starting to be held accountable, though.
They should
There
be.
was, I wish I'd have thought about this earlier, but there was one of the big ones. They just recently lost a case where they're like, no, like you created this addictions problem and then profited off of it. Like you're going to be financially held accountable. And it was some fucking enormous number. But I mean, and it was just one. And I'm like, well, get the rest of them because it wasn't just one of them that's like, you know what? I figured this out. No one else did. Yeah, like you said, they're all fucking
I
cartels.
think those are with the Oxycontin.
I think it had to do with that. I can't remember the name of the company, though.
There was one of
Oh,
those
so many names of things I can't remember when I get on here.
Oxys, I'm pretty sure, when they changed the model from crushable and shootable into not being able to be crushed and shot, their sales went down 80%. Which tells you what they were actually being used for. Like, you know,
Holy fuck.
there's this one documentary. The guy did Bigger, Stronger, Faster. He did one on steroids, but like the other side of his story of his brothers and him doing steroids were that they were all hooked on pharmaceutical downers and painkillers. So he did another documentary on the what's it? Do you know this? What's it called?
I'll remember in a minute. I know what you're talking
Prescription
about, though.
Nation or something.
That sounds
like
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. And he goes into the fact that like, these big pharmaceutical companies know that people are getting addicted to their shit, but they keep pushing it out there. And they're lobbying enough to get the laws to say that this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. You'll get some corrupt doctor who gets a kickback for every prescription they write for oxys, giving out, like, they're the fucking neighborhood dope dealer. That's what they're doing. They got lineups outside their fucking, and they just got scripts ready to give these people downer prescriptions. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, man. Or uppers, Adderall, Ritalin. These are speed for people that don't know. Dilaudid, oxys, morphine, painkillers. Like, these are downers. These are things that get people high. But because it's pharmaceutical companies, it's acceptable. Because a doctor prescribed it, it's acceptable. Yeah. Anyways, I digress.
I really like tramadol, by the way.
What's that?
Yeah, it's an opioid painkiller.
Yeah.
I take like 4 before a basketball game. I can play real good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just run around like crazy. It's awesome.
How are your knees, basically?
Oh, they're mush.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're mush.
So have you been practicing your wheelchair basketball?
I should.
Yeah.
I think that's my next,
Just get ahead of the
next
game.
step.
Yeah, you can be
My
that guy.
elbow is like jacked up, so I can't even shoot anymore. So it's pretty sad.
You'll be the one arm dribbling with one, steering with your mouth.
Yeah, my off
you know?
arm.
Oh my!
I think it's time to hang it up. So
You'll be ground Jordan.
that's pretty good.
Brown Jordan.
I love you, man, but I worry about that. You're like, oh, my knees are killing me, but I'm going to go to basketball and jiu-jitsu.
You
And
should see what I have to do to play basketball.
yeah,
it's
you doing
crazy.
cortisone shots?
I have to like shave my legs and then tape them up hardcore, and then I run weird like a praying mantis, so I can't really run full tilt, and so it's pretty sad.
You know, you could probably get your
I'm
legs.
enjoying this. As you awkwardly run.
And sadly, I'm still one of the best players on my team. I don't know how,
I've been playing a
how
lot of
that works.
Cyberpunk. So have you considered getting your legs removed from the knees down and replaced with those little springy things? Because you
Oh.
could probably get more
Oh,
air.
yeah. I would love
you know?
that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Blade
It was
Runner.
that runner that did that.
Yeah.
What's his
Oscar
face?
Pistorius.
Yeah.
Or
You did it on
Pistorius.
purpose?
No, he didn't
Bald
do it on
hair?
purpose.
No.
No, he just lost his legs. And he
No,
ran.
yeah.
They called him the Blade Runner. He was from South Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
He ran Olympics, like the actual Olympics, not like Paralympics, but
Yeah.
But you get
Then he
like
killed, like, his
speed,
wife
like
after,
that's high tech.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We actually had a joke about that, and
Do tell.
It's
joking about murder.
Well, no, yeah, well, just about that, but like you think about somebody like that, like all the things he would have had to overcome in his life just to get to be that level of an athlete, like. What
got no legs, bro.
What was it that she said that finally pushed him over the edge? You know what I mean? He's like, how many arguments had they been in, and he'd had to overcome all this shit, and then all of a sudden she just let loose with some shit that he's just like, that's fucking it. I'm not even getting the legs. I'm getting my gun.
She's like, at least I have toenails.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm tired of seeing your rug burn balls. Yeah, Oscar Pretorius or Pistorius, I don't
think it's
fucking know. But
Pistorius.
yeah, the old the Blade Runner from South Africa. Yeah. No, we were fucking joking around about that the one night, about how like he would had to have, because he's got them stumps on, right? Like if it's a big gun, you're gonna spin him over backwards when he's taking a shot, so he's gonna have to probably jam a stump up against the wall to really get some leverage, you know. That's a lot of fucking work. So yeah, it had to be something heavy. You don't get away with just being like, you're a loser, I hate your mother, or something like that, to get that level. A world-class athlete, you know.
I think during COVID, I watched a lot of like Making a Murderer and
Mhm.
those kind of like shows. So it's real interesting to see how these like psychopaths like grow up from. Usually it starts when they're young kids and they're killing animals and little kittens. And that's the signs, right? And
Right.
So I wonder how many animals he killed when he was like 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and him, I don't know if he had a history of violence on top of that, but I mean, that could be the one violent outburst. That's what I'm saying too, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
could have been a calm man. Could have had that for. He's like, look, I got stumps where somebody steals my Blade Runner legs. I got to protect myself and my woman. I got this fucking handgun just for that, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got, he just loses it and uses it on her. I mean, again,
Was it a murder suicide or was it just murder?
no, and he tried to claim that, like he went to court over it and like tried to claim either like he didn't know it was her behind the door, or like he didn't really know what was going
just
on.
shooting around the house. I didn't know she was
shot through the door like 7 fucking times, like like you're not trying to scare somebody at that point.
True story. When I was a kid, I was a skinhead, and one of the guys that recruited me into these organizations murdered a guy, and that was his defense. I was just shooting around the store, and I shot through the door, and I shot this guy in the back, right? And his name was Carney Nerland from PA. He had a pawn and gun store, and honestly, we would go to his shop, and this is fucking nuts. We were just a bunch of young skinheads, and he's like, "Hey, you guys like guns? Here, shoot this, or aim it at this thing in the back," and we'd sit there and do like shooting in his store pretty regularly, and this guy came into the store, drunk native guy, walked out apparently, and they'd had words, and magically he got shot in the back through the door, right? And that was his attempted defense, is that he was just shooting around the store, which admittedly did happen, but yeah. A gentleman named Neil
Once again,
Lachance.
you were wondering where that island was. This is Saskatchewan, where you're like, no, I think it's a legitimate defense that I was just shooting around my store, and then I can claim I just accidentally shot someone through the door.
Yeah, that was a sketchy time. But yeah, so you think Buddy's going to be allowed to keep his legs in jail?
I don't know. I don't even know how that all shook out. I'm sure he didn't win the case. I don't remember what he got years wise or whatever. And yeah, you got to think, right? Like you got to make some accommodations, but maybe they don't give him the fucking
Wheelchair?
fancy ones. Yeah, put him in a
Because
wheelchair.
you could probably shank up your legs pretty quick.
Well, and it would just
Sharpen
be
them on the floor
It would just be
when at
something
night.
like they constantly be like, okay, where's your legs now? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like
Somebody else would steal his
took them
legs to
again.
make a
Somebody bouncing
fucking
around on them. They're 9 feet tall all of a sudden.
Yeah, they look like swords, really. So,
See, and that's just it. You could
Blade Runner
modify
called
yourself,
for
and
Christ's
like
sakes,
next
I've
thing you
seen
know, you got a
Blade
new elbow, like a shooting elbow, and like the bouncy legs. I
I
don't
might
play
have,
Cyberpunk too much.
I've added some accessories in my bouncing days, so
Yeah?
I can relate a little bit. So.
Holy fuck, yeah, your angle iron. Dave, okay, so one day he's like, here, take this angle iron. What you do is you put on your Muay Thai shin pads and you duct tape the angle iron onto the shin pads and you put your pants over top, and you basically have Batmaned out your shins for thigh kicks or knee kicks. And he had that at the bar when he was working the door. And fuck is that not genius? Same thing if you did your forearms and your legs, the angle iron.
I'm just picturing the shattering of shins. Somebody like,
if you
"Fuck
wanted to be
you."
a real fucking lunatic,
Yeah.
Jesus
Or even
Christ.
just somebody just trying to kick you. You just mind
Oh,
your
yeah.
business. Just
Block
like,
it?
bang. Oh my god! Hey, don't do that.
I am so in favor of that plan, where it's like, hey,
Minding
I'm not
my
going to use
business.
these
Yeah.
offensively.
Yeah, if you
but
slam into
come
me,
at
you're gonna destroy yourself. Yeah.
You swing.
That's how I kind of feel now. I mean, you want to fucking swing on this, bro? You want to swing on this? Huh?
It's going to take a little bit to get
Yeah,
there.
you're gonna hit me a bunch because it's gonna be very comfortable on your hands.
It was always my
Scotty.
ace. Right? Like, if I ever had to play that ace, then I always had it, and I'd much rather have that ace than not.
Yeah,
So,
it's better to need it and not have it than
one
have it
kick to
and not
the knees and they're gone. They're down. So
Man, okay.
never used it. So
Well, and that's the goal,
wish, he
right?
says.
You don't want to be out there with like I wish I could be Batman. You don't want to be out there being the offensive guy, but you really like the idea of if you really want to cross the line, you're going to withdraw your hand real quick, saying that was a bad idea. So if somebody goes to try and Rambo you out and do a thigh kick, and you do you just check it with your shin, and their shin wraps around yours. Yeah, that was your problem. Maybe you shouldn't have
that
tried
makes me
kicking me.
uncomfortable.
I really like that idea.
So
We-
very uncomfortable.
we did I kind of did like a rough guess of how many physical altercations I've been in the bar, and I bounced for about 10 years, and so I'd say conservatively around 150 times I had to use like physical force.
How many people you choke out?
Oh, I don't know.
Come on.
100.
100 people? 100
probably 100.
unconscious chokeouts?
Yeah, probably about 100.
Attaboy.
And
And that's at the bar. That doesn't count in the gym.
oh yeah, like I've never actually I've only been in one street fight where I was working at Subway, and so it doesn't even really count. But all my other physical fights have either been like when I was bouncing or else like professionally. Yeah, it's I only let my guard down once, and I paid for it because I got punched from behind, and I have a scar in the back of my head for it. So after that, I never let my guard down, and when it was go time, I went 100% go time, right? And so that's how you stay safe. And yeah, I only had 2 injuries ever bouncing, and not many fights, so it's pretty good.
I heard about you long before I ever met you. And it's funny.
How sexy I am?
That was it. No. Actually, it's funny because I've heard the same story about me that people have heard about me before meeting me, and then they were like kind of underwhelmed when they actually met me. They're like, I thought you were much bigger and much scarier. Man, if your preceding stories, if the person I thought you were, you would have looked like Batista from fucking. Well, you do kind of look like Batista from Guardians of the Galaxy. With fangs, where you bite people's heads off and you throw them downstairs, and you're like this. I heard so many scary stories about people that had never walked the same after running into you at Jack's, which is probably true. But then I met you, and you were one of the nicest, friendliest, sober, considerate, funny dudes I'd ever met, and we became really good friends.
You left out sexy.
I did leave out sexy.
Twice now.
It's not the first
I
thing
think it's
on
on
my
purpose.
brain,
Yeah.
until you wear those tight pants, and then I'm like, oh shit, Dave, dress to the left. Anyways,
Oh, I should show you what I'm wearing right now under here, but
you shaved your balls for this, eh?
I have some White Rabbit leggings. They're pretty sweet. Oh God, I just got them. They're awesome.
And that's just it. And I don't know many people with like a capacity and a proclivity for violence with the sense of humor and the nice, considerate heart that you have. And I know there's 2 people in town that I really trust to teach me martial arts. Well, that I treat, because when I study martial arts, it's for a survival, self-defense kind of thing, and it's not for a sport thing. So there's 2 people, Dustin being one and you being the other, mostly because you worked at the bars with a bunch of drunken people really wanting to throw down that don't understand inhibition or restraint, and you know how to take care of them in a real-life altercation where there are no refs, there are no rules. This guy's drunk, they might pull a weapon. And there's 2 people, Dustin and you, that I would listen to. And Dustin will never come on our podcast because he's a pretty legitimate straight shooting guy and wants to have a community of legitimate straight shooting people that want to respect him. But, lowbrow scumbags like us don't care. Right?
If he came on and we just talked about bar fights, it'd be the best podcast.
Oh, my
probably
God.
Ever
Yeah.
record. It'd be so good. So.
See, and that's just it. And Dustin, he runs a group called Defense Lab. That's his martial art, and he's
Oh,
really,
cheap plug. Good.
Yeah, I always try to give my friends a prop of Defense Lab. Take a look, Defense Lab, Saskatoon, and you do the jiu-jitsu, more traditional.
Imperium
MMA stuff.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Imperium Jiu-Jitsu. You can find you on Facebook.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. So his idea, he's really into more like the law enforcement security angle, and you're more into the MMA self-defense angle, right?
Yeah.
And with me in my Cali class, it was scumbags that might want to carry a knife. So I don't teach anymore, So it was very interesting training with you guys because if I really wanted to pick your brains on what you would do in a situation to keep yourself safe against a real attacker, some drunken lunatic or potential predator, you guys would say, what I think once you said the two major things would be a double leg takedown and a rear naked choke that people should probably learn if they really want to keep themselves safe in a self-defense scenario.
Yeah, there's a few things. There's a major technique called ashigarami, which is kind of like a leg lock from off your back. So let's say I get punched down and somebody's standing over top of me. I don't want them to start punching me, right? So I kind of wrap my legs around like a snake, and it prevents them from punching me, and then I can break their leg in like 1 second.
Okay.
So that's actually probably the most important self-defense technique that I actually teach. Then you need like guard work and all that stuff too. But that one alone, because that happens so much when you watch like fights. A guy will get knocked down and somebody will just storm them and start beating the crap out of them. But that can be prevented with this one simple technique. It's really easy to learn, and it's so devastating. You do what's called a heel hook, and you can tear their knee into shreds in like a second. I've done it several times, actually. But
You see the smile? Yeah, he's like, I've done it.
but it works. Like you're saying, like you like Dustin because he's been in far more fights than I have too, probably.
He's scary,
And
scary dangerous.
yeah, he's kind of like Batman, right? He's got a bit of a moral code, which I have less. So I will go and break someone's leg, whereas Dustin maybe not.
I think he will.
Maybe.
He absolutely
but-
will. Let's
yeah.
not lie.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to be. Like, I'm trying not to get Dustin canceled either, but
Yeah.
but no, there's some real I'd probably say 6 defensive techniques that everybody should know and learn. And some of them aren't even like martial arts. Some of them are just like a flashlight. I think if you had like a really awesome flashlight with, I think you can
like a
stay
strobe
safe.
kind of deal.
Yeah, I use them at the bar. I have one that's like $300, but it's the best self-defense technique you'll ever learn.
Or
Like,
tool, yeah.
Yeah. Good luck attacking me when I'm strobing you in the
Yeah.
face. Yeah.
And
good
you
luck.
don't know where you're
Yeah.
attacking.
You can't even look at me.
Yeah.
I can flash on my hand, and you can't even look at my hand.
At the reflection.
Yeah, it's so good, right? So I think everybody, if they carried one of those, they would be a lot better off right off the bat. That's simple, basic stuff, right? I should have brought it.
Well, in
you
the
must have
dark,
one,
if you're
so-
in, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
If you're in the dark in an alley or in a bar, and somebody suddenly shines a strobe light in your eye that causes your eyes to constrict, right? Your irises constrict. You don't know what you're looking at anymore. Plus, you've got a whole bunch of imprints of a really bright circle. So where you're looking for whoever you're trying to attack, a bad guy is looking for whoever they're trying to attack, and they're just seeing dots. You haven't really injured them, and you have the opportunity to escape, which is self-defense.
Plus, you probably got a really good look at him by lighting them all up like
Yeah,
that.
if it was combined with a camera, picture, that would be so great.
Yeah.
But then my first line of self-defense when I was doing martial arts is never being where you need to defend yourself. And that could be physically getting out of range, or it could also just be don't be around the bar at 2 a.m. when everybody's pouring out and wants to fight.
Yeah.
Like, don't be where you need to. So the first functional self-defense is not avoiding conflict.
Sorry, it just reminds me of a time I was talking to a buddy of mine, and actually, I'm Corey Dick. I'll say a little off camera. I don't know if you listen to this, but we were talking about getting robbed and that sort of thing, and I said, well, sometimes it is a little bit on you being situationally aware. Like if you're like, I'm not comfortable in this situation, I should walk where it's lit or whatever, right? And buddy goes to me, he's like, well, I've been robbed 13 times. You trying to say it's my fault? I'm like, man, at 13, I'm kind of starting to say it is. Maybe you put on some vibes or some pheromones or something.
What were you wearing,
but
buddy?
it's like, how eventually it gets to be, are you just looking for this now? Like, we got a baker's dozen here, you getting robbed.
Well, does he not realize his mistakes he's making over and over and over again?
So I don't know if it's the same one. That's exactly what I was in my head. I'm like, what are you doing something different every time and still getting robbed? Or are you
Walking
doing the
half
same
naked
thing?
into the bad off sale
You
with
just walking around
$300 sticking out of your underwear?
shaking money in the air. Yeah.
Or 7-Eleven, the downtown one.
Right, yeah, the 22nd Street.
That one's pretty awesome. Oh, they closed that one. Unfortunately, that was a lot of
Closing
comedy.
them all, man. Fucking 7-Elevens. You want to be stock in that.
So Dustin and you Dustin was really interested in establishing this Defense Lab program, which is somebody else's program, and he was like, we were talking about, I wanted him to create a bouncer program, like stuff that you've learned in the nightclubs, that 5 or 6 techniques. You sign up for this thing, I'll show you these 5 or 6 techniques, and you're going to have a really simple, streamlined, formulated self-defense plan to keep yourself safe on the streets. Size regardless, women could take it, young people could take it, smaller individuals could take it. But he really wanted to go into Defense Lab, and we've talked about this. I think that would be a really great program, is stuff that is extrapolated from real conflict that is streamlined to say you don't need to take this art for 20 years to be a master of it. You could take a seminar,
Well,
5 seminars, and boom, here you go. Here's the program that's going to be real simple.
That's the problem, right? How do you keep monetizing that? After you've done all the seminars, you can't keep doing it, right? After everybody's learned the 5 techniques.
Yes, I
so
don't
who
think
wants to have 5? You need 50, right?
You need to monetize it.
Exactly. If you're making, because that's why people do that, right? It's never just to fucking like, oh,
Help-
make everybody safe
help
and
people?
help them. Yeah, no, I gotta build a whole system around this, and then I gotta monetize my system.
You
and,
need to upgrade it every 3
because
months.
as you were
and
talking
keep
about
sending me
that, I'm like, yeah, it's
$100.
almost overly simplistic. A lot of what you'll say, it'll be, like, well, something like that's a great tool, but like, yeah, exactly. If you can run away, you should run away. That's like the first thing you teach somebody. Hey? You're like, if you can kick them in the balls or stab them in the eyeballs, you should kick them in the balls or stab them in the eyeballs. And you're like, okay, so what else do I need to know? That's pretty much it, baby kicks. If you can just run the opposite way or get close enough to some balls or eyes, that's it. Like, that's what we're gonna do here. This is survival of the fittest, and hopefully not blind.
Well, most predators, in my experience, seek prey, and I think we talked about that a little earlier.
Yeah.
Predators seek prey; they don't seek a fight. And if you are able and willing to fight and to fight efficiently, effectively, and quickly, they're not going to want to hang around. They're going to look for the easier victim.
Well, and they don't know that by just looking at some random stranger walking down the street, unless you carry yourself in a way that you're not concerned about it. If you're someone who is constantly fidgety and weird and uncomfortable, well then, yeah, there's a victim. But if you're somebody who's like, even before you've ever been in that, you've taken these kind of classes, if I'm walking down the street, somebody pulls a knife at me, these are the things I'm going to do.
Your chin's a
I'm
little
already,
higher,
exactly,
your
you already
chest's
feel a little more comfortable. That's what they can see, right? They can't see the hours anybody's putting into the gym, and you argue that all the time at the bar. Well, that guy seemed really unassuming. He beat the shit out of that guy. Yeah, those are those one-offs. Every other time in life, like you see people who walk confidently down the fucking street. Those are generally not the people about to be robbed.
If you take a look at any predator on the Serengeti, like a leopard or a tiger or an alligator, they're not looking for the strongest. They're not looking for those that are in the middle of the herd. They're looking for the outliers, the scragglers, the ones that are limping, the ones that are small, the ones that are slow.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah.
We're looking for Russes.
Hey, you son of a bitch! Ain't no mic for Russ. Oh yeah, that's actually more.
But either way, they're looking for the ones that are the weak, the ones that are unprepared, the ones that can't run, because they're going to be the easy prey. And if you become a hard target, then the chances are they're going to go for the softer target. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what were you telling me about crocodile cocks earlier? They were.
They're always erect.
They're always
Or
erect.
alligators.
Alligator dicks. That's what it was.
Alligator dicks are always erect.
hard.
That was,
And I was like, that's perfect of them, because they're already like a perfect killing machine, and then they're
And
also a
fucking
fuck
machine.
machine on top of it. Like, what else do they need to?
Jesus Christ,
perfect?
that's why they are
Yeah,
the same
change.
animal they've been for billions of years.
Exactly.
Because they're always hard and always ready to bite.
Yep. He's already ready to bite.
So you've done personal training for strippers.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I have.
How was that?
Can you tell me where I met these strippers? I don't remember.
I don't know. Some guy ran a dancer agency and decided that one of his buddies is a good trainer and he's gonna.
This is stripper defense.
No, it's literally to keep them in working
physical
shape.
fitness. I
Yes,
see.
yes.
Yeah.
I have this theory. I ran a dancer agency, and I have a theory, and everybody loves my theories. But if your business is appearance based, then a significant amount of your money and time should go into investing in your appearance. That's just makes sense. So Dave ran a gym, and he was nice enough to give free training to the dancers that wanted to work with us. What was your experience like with that?
Oh,
Did it mirror the millennial experience?
it was, yeah. They didn't work as hard as I was expecting. That's for sure.
A couple did,
A couple did, yeah. That's about it.
Yeah.
I think 2, actually, exactly 2. So
Out of 10?
yeah, 10 or so.
So 20%.
A little disappointing in their effort, but yeah, it was okay. It helped you out, and it was
Sounds
fun.
like poor coaching, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It could have been, yeah. I was a little.
So do you think corporal punishment would have helped that?
Definitely not them. So maybe my Crack Island idea might have helped them more.
Yes,
So,
Crack
Jesus.
Island. Well, that was my experience. Like the dancer agency showed me a window into a world that I wasn't really prepared for. There's a whole bunch of people that get into dancing for different elements. Some really look at it as a potential springboard business opportunity to make some money and improve their life. Other ones look at it as easy money, where they can just get high and party as much as they want and they don't have to take any responsibility.
Yeah.
And then there's others that say, well, hey, I'm built like this, I can make money, and I'm going to utilize it for a period of time to pay bills while I go to school or whatever the case may be. But the vast majority I found of the people I engaged with, because there was a high turnover, were give me your money, I don't want to do anything. The guy whose lap I'm sitting on is a wallet at best, and I don't need to work hard because I'm pretty.
Yep.
That was the vast majority of the people I met in the dancing agency. Now, there's a couple people. Cruella Kraken is what she goes by now.
It's one of the people I was talking about.
She's a hard worker,
Super hard,
and now she's got a house, she's got a mortgage, she's a pro dancer in Alberta. She worked her ass off, started her own agency, and now is just like high-end managing herself. And she really turned that dancing gig into a business for herself. She
good for her.
branded herself. But then there's a lot of people that fell off the wayside. They really liked the party lifestyle, dating drug dealers, and that was a fucking nightmare, when gangsters figured that they run the show and you have to ask their permission. What a fucking nightmare.
And it's most business owners have that.
Gangsters.
You got a convenience store or mortgage brokerage firm.
Yeah, the guy showing up with guns and said, "Let me see my girlfriend,"
all
or
the
else.
gangster shit you got to deal with.
You should see these video game gangs that show up to Bartari. Oh man.
Sorry, video game gangs.
Oh yeah,
Tell
they're
me
scary.
more.
Yeah, they show up with their Call of Duty clans.
Yeah.
Take over the bar. Yeah.
Not sure you know me on the internet.
The Smash Bros.
I'm Snipe 6321.
Oh my God, not you.
Snot down the
I
back
will
of his
dox the
sleeve.
fuck out of you. Yeah, exactly.
Anybody but you.
No, it's funny. When I had the dancer agency, we had this rule that your boyfriends cannot come to where you work. You go and meet them outside the business, and it doesn't matter what about the boyfriend, because my experience was these dancers are here to do a job, and if the boyfriend walks in and sees them sitting on somebody else's lap, holy shit, does it hit the fan, especially if they're some sort of wannabe gangster. They got drugs in their pocket, or guns, or hooked up with gangsters. And then they would always try to pull rank and want to come in and push their weight around and say, "Oh, fuck, it's my girlfriend. You don't respect me, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, no, this is just our policy, And, yeah, and it was kind of a nightmare.
It's just a policy that comes down from corporate. Well, who's corporate?
Me.
Well, me. I'm corporate, but
that's
I
the
don't
rules.
want you here.
That's the rules. And you know what? If you follow the rules, everybody, don't worry. Your girlfriend's going to keep you in smokes, bro. It's going to be fine. And it was funny because the one girl's like, "My boyfriend's here. He needs cigarettes. Can I go to 7-Eleven? Oh, fuck that you date a deadbeat. But that's a kind of an interesting one. In the bar scene, these guys try and get past cover. You don't know who I am. I don't pay cover here. Why not? Do you own the bar? You buying the liquor? I don't get it.
Pretty sure you're not important.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
The UIP line, the unimportant people line, yeah. As opposed to the very important people line. I always got a kick out of the VIP section in Saskatoon bars. I don't know what it's like in Vegas or New York or LA, where you pay $800 for a bottle. Here you pay, I don't know, $100 and you get a shitty bottle, and people think they're important. 3 people get together, they get a table, and they buy $30 each, and they in the very important people. With other gangsters
Bickering about who paid who.
Who paid who?
You still owe me $10 though.
for some shitty fucking
In
Grey
the
Goose or
VIP
something like that.
section.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's
classy.
it's nuts.
There's only 2 ways to get past the VIP line when I worked. You better be like a hot chick, or else bring beef jerky. And that's it. That was it. So, or candy, I guess. Buy some
Yeah.
candies.
Salted meats.
Salted
treats.
meats will get you
Into
very
the-
very
sorry,
far.
in the club. And the club, sorry.
So what kind of training you doing now?
I'm doing mostly jujitsu. We do teach Muay Thai at my club too. So, but I can't really, I can't throw any punches right now. My shoulder and elbow
What about
are
kicks?
messed up. I can't throw kicks. I never could. My knees are so bad. But I could throw knees in a clinch. That's all I can really do. But I can hold pads pretty well still. So I do that. But most of my time is jujitsu. We train 6 days a week. So I'm doing about 7 or 8 classes a week. So
How many guys you got going with you?
we have 24 kind of signed up that will come through.
That's
But
like a monthly recurring kind of.
Kind of, yeah. Most of them are doing drop-ins, but the average class would be 6 to 8 per class. So, but no, it's good. We have a couple hardcores that come every day, and then then the class is filled up with just randoms here and there. But
So you ranked in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu yet?
yeah, my coach is Mitch Clark, who's one of my old students. He's a
From
UFC
UFC.
veteran. Yeah.
So you teach UFC?
Yes.
I teach Ultimate Fighting.
That's all we do.
All
Yeah.
lowercase.
was one of our shirts. Pat's referencing one of our Way of the Dragon shirts. Where I had that on our shirt.
I love that
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And ultimate fighting was spelt wrong.
Yeah.
I train ultimate fighting. Like,
So good.
yeah, I love Dave.
But no, it's good. Like I've only been wearing the gi for like 3 years now, I think.
So you were doing
And,
no gi before that.
Yeah, so I had a significant background in no gi grappling and MMA grappling. So I kind of started up pretty high, and so I'm a 3-stripe purple belt through Mitch. So I'm his highest ranked guy in Saskatchewan, I believe. But yeah, no, it's good. It's fun wearing the gi. I learned to like it because I used to hate it, and but now I like it. I play around with it a lot, and yeah, it's pretty fun.
What do you enjoy about the gi? Because I fucking hate that shit.
I hated it too. I thought it was hot.
Yep,
and
stifling.
yeah, and you know, being a no-gi guy back in the day, like I used to use a lot of quickness to move around. So in no-gi, you get sweaty,
can't.
and so
You
it's a lot.
can't be explosive and quick. It's
Yeah,
always
you know,
grabbing or
that's
somebody's
right.
holding on to it.
Yeah, so gi you can really slow guys down. So being older now, I can slow a lot of guys down. So that's kind of fun. And then you just learn like fun tricks, like how to like choke people out with their jackets or your own jacket, and that's actually pretty fun learning that stuff. So
I think it's very applicable to street self-defense.
100%.
Where people will be wearing a hoodie or a jacket or obviously pants. If you're getting attacked without pants, I think you got more issues
It's
than just
very rare that people
jiu-jitsu.
are stripping out of the Valley Tudo shorts to scrap you in the streets.
But yeah, if you can use a pant leg to stop somebody or to move somebody or to control them or God forbid to choke them with a pant leg, fuck, would that be a thing?
Yeah.
But doing lapel chokes, with a guy comes at you with a jean jacket or a hoodie and you can do a lapel choke. I really want my daughter to learn lapel chokes from the bottom in case somebody comes at her and is on top of her, grabbing and being able to do that stuff is
So,
really
example, I'm wearing one of our jackets. Actually, this is a gi jacket, but I can use this as a weapon against anybody. Right? It's kind of nice. I put him like a headlock. I grab my own jacket.
Oh, okay.
And it's an awesome choke. It's one of my top 6 moves you should
I
learn.
guess
Actually,
you could adjust it however
Yeah,
you want.
I can-
without
I can
having to
cinch
work
it
your
up,
arm. And
right?
you can tie him up with this one.
yeah, and I can do the exact same thing
tighten
with.
the jacket as
If
well.
you're wearing this, I can do the same thing too, right? And yeah, learning this gi stuff's been a lot of fun. It's nice that nobody knows it all, and so it's really nice to learn a lot of new stuff. And yeah, I think I'm a far better martial artist now than I was 3 years ago. So
Yeah, I really like the gi because for throws, you can use you just grab that and do I guess that comes from judo, right? A lot of this stuff.
that's where jujitsu's from. So and our jujitsu gi.
Oh, she's usually pretty good. She doesn't
Yeah.
trust you, Dave.
Yeah,
I think
I know.
she's racist.
She might be.
Yeah.
Sense of evil.
Yeah, no, like she's come from a Mexican background, doesn't like Asian people.
Well, I'm only half Asian. Whoa.
All right, I'm going to take them upstairs. Okay,
No
come
deal.
on. Bedtime.
More dog.
Yeah. Bedtime.
I can't believe that works. How do you do that? That's crazy.
Because I get down at their eye level and I say, "What's going on, guys? We need to have a conversation." Just like raising children. No,
You need to train our dogs. They're crazy.
well, that's the thing. Some people just really don't have their heads on with dog training. I'm a big follower of Cesar Millan for raising children. And first you have to.
Have you tried tiring them out on a leash with some roller skates?
Yeah, you put a collar and you pull it and you say, "Hey, hey!" Every time they pull, "Hey!" Right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. My dogs. I used to be a negative reinforcement dog trainer, which was really horrible, and I had very unhappy but well-trained pit bulls because of that. But in my mind, whether it was accurate or not, I kind of felt if you have an aggressive and potentially dangerous animal, you need to show them that you're aggressive and potentially dangerous yourself in order to train them. My partner now is very big on positive reinforcement. So you say bedtime, and then you give them a reward for going to bed. And then when you lock them up in bed, like kennel training, you give them a treat. And so that's their safe place. So when you say bedtime, they know, hey, that's a good thing. I go away and I'm rewarded. But I'm also still a little bit of that negative reinforcement where if they don't go to bed, they're getting picked up by the scruff of the neck, put in bed, locked down for a while. Yeah. So I'm a big believer in timeouts now. So I'm not going to smack a dog like I once did. I'm not going to lie. I used to be a real fucking lunatic, and I would hammer my dogs if they were being fucking assholes, right? Because that's how I thought you were supposed to train dogs. Now, if a dog's being bad, they get their timeout, they're locked up, that's just it. And if they don't go to bed on their own, they're definitely getting a timeout. right? And if they go to bed on their own, they're not getting locked up. They get a reward for going to bed. So now they realize going to bed or doing what they're told is a good thing, and they get praise for doing a good thing as opposed to repercussions for doing a bad thing, you know? Yeah. So it's almost like I carry that over to society. If we had the drug addicts and they got rewards for not doing drugs and rewards for not doing crime versus just punishment for doing the bad, we might have a different society where people feel, hey, there's rewards for doing the right thing versus punishment for doing the wrong. Yeah.
I'm glad you're coming around to Crack Island. You think it's a good idea now, don't you?
I think it's just a matter of how you word it.
It's all marketing.
Yeah, rewards.
Marketing.
Well, fucking, the more you explain Crack Island, I'm like, I just want to go there. Like, I'll fucking have a holiday
what
on
it's
Crack
about
Island.
now, yeah.
You mean I can go there and I can pay for sex or I could pay for drugs and I could hang out and do video games for as long as I want, and if I want to come back, then I have to go through a rehab? Well,
As long as it's named Crack Island, then whatever.
Do
It's
whatever.
non-negotiable.
You
It's
want. Yeah.
never called
Non-negotiable
Crack
at
You
Island.
Crack
already got the
Island.
merchandise in your head. Hey.
Nike Crack Island.
See, I think it's weird
Yeah,
being
collab.
a little bit of a radical libertarian in the way that I think people have a right to do whatever the fuck they want with their consciousness, their body, their sexuality, their commerce, as long as they're not harming anybody who doesn't want to be involved. Now, that's pretty radical, you know? I think gay people have the right to, you know, be married and have orgies and protect their farms of marijuana with guns. You know, with whatever guns they want. Now, I think that should be their right. They should be free to do that. And consent is the big thing, because if somebody violates their consent, I think they've got a right to protect their boundaries. You do you, I do me. Everybody agrees to coexist. Now, when what you are doing invades on me, that's when we're going to
I'm
have
gonna
an
choke you
issue.
with your jacket.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, the idea of like, you have a right to have your shin guards that are going to break my shin if I try to attack you. Now, ideally, nobody ever tries to attack each other and everybody's very happy. Now, if you do decide to attack me, you're going to learn real quick and real hard why you shouldn't. Now, I believe in that society, but unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are responsible enough to live in a society like that. Yeah.
There'd be a lot of broken legs everywhere, I think.
Just testing them out.
Yeah.
Seeing what it would do.
I think it's very...
I did test it out. I kicked this rail that we had like as hard as I could. Oh man, oof, that would have been ugly if I ever used
You
it.
did
so-
that to a human? Yeah.
Oh, it would have been bad. So I kick hard already, so even with that, it'd be pretty bad. So yeah.
One of my issues when I was teaching Kali, because those people that aren't familiar, Kali is a Filipino martial art. That's why we have the weapons of the Moroland up there with all the different swords. It's a blade art. You're basically learning sword fighting. And from sword fighting, you turn it into stick fighting. And from stick fighting, you turn it into knife fighting. So it's a very violent martial art. You're learning really horrific shit to do to people if you ever did it in real life. And I had a couple people that went out and did some of the stuff that I taught them in street altercations, and I had ethical issues about whether or not I wanted to keep teaching that art. So I kind of stepped back from it. I love the art, but I don't necessarily want to teach people that stuff anymore. And I worry about that with MMA, with a certain personality of jocks that used to just get into hockey and beat people up on the rink, now just skip the hockey and go straight to wanting to beat people up in cages. And there's that certain attitude. You come from a traditional martial arts background, right?
Yeah, and you know, I had so many of those jokers come into my MMA gym back in the day, and actually that's kind of what drove me away from MMA for a while, because I get so many clowns. Like once a week I get a ridiculous call, you know, just some meathead like that, and so it really kind of put a sour taste in my mouth for MMA.
A lot of guys have already got like, oh, well, I got my career pretty much planned out. I just
Oh,
need
yeah.
to show up and like, you guys got a program there that I can get with for a bit. I remember a guy one time we were at the gym there, and he'd had like a big like Vanderlei Fight Team sticker in his window of his car, and he was like, yeah, they got me all hooked up. Like I'm gonna be down there in Vegas, like working with them. I'm like, fuck,
Right.
that's wild. I think I seen him at the gym twice, and then never ever again. I'm like, wow, they must have picked him up. You couldn't have
Yeah.
just bought that sticker, I guess.
Like those people are the easiest to weed out, because I just make the class hard, and or else I'd, or I'd have them roll with
Hard
like
class.
one of my top students is her name is Alex. She's a little 115-pound girl, and
I miss
so
Alex.
she would roll with them and torture them and kill them, and so then they'd be embarrassed and never come back. And once in a while they would come back, but those kind of people, they never stick it out. It's like Dusty, you did a fight, and so you know what it's like to go through like
A camp.
training and you know it's not easy it's a super hard thing to do is go in a fight. It's very, it gets very scary.
Well, you don't
Yeah.
just get to do it. You don't just get to like, oh, I just signed up,
No.
so I'm going to do it. It's like, well, no, like
Yeah.
the doctors won't let
Yeah.
you fight if you're not fucking ready to do this.
Yeah,
thing.
you know,
like,
and
it's like, yeah.
Unfortunately, too many people like will take the shortcuts and just try to like fight. I know lots of guys like that just,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
get
they
in
don't want
there
to
and do
they
it.
don't want to put in the actual work to do it.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, you know
it's
what?
hard,
And with a
and-
promotion that would let them do that, it might even work out once or twice. It's like, hey, you
Well,
have to beat up some
yeah.
other guy who never trained and didn't try.
Yeah.
And then the first time you go with a guy who's like, no, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 or 4 years already, and then I
Yeah.
got with a real gym for a year or two. Like, you
Yeah.
know, then it's like, oh, never
No.
mind. That's well, like the guy I fought. That fucking dude, man, he had a whole
Monster.
life
Yeah.
transformation. I'm sure you've seen him around a bit still.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of fucking work that goes into that.
Oh, it's brutal. Like, and you know, win or lose, like it's something you'll never forget. It's an amazing feeling. Like, it's also the worst feeling when you lose, but knowing that you did it, you know, I can't really describe the feeling, right? Like it's you literally, it's a team sport too, no matter what they say.
Yeah.
You're literally bleeding and sweating with people every day to train to push you to
Well,
get to this fight.
that was where the frustration was for me. Was like how bad I felt for you guys. You know, I'm like, I
yeah.
fucking let you down. I shouldn't
yeah,
have done
no.
that. That was so.
Yeah.
You would have said don't fucking do that. You know, like,
No,
and
that's-
that's what's in my head about it.
No,
right? Yeah,
there's some like I don't know, people seem to think that you're letting people down, but no, like there's no letting anybody down. Like you're going in there, you're competing in one of the hardest, you know, sports possible, and it's extremely dangerous. You're going in there, you're fighting some guy, and you know he's not going to hold back on you, and someone's going to win, someone's going to lose most of the time, and you know, and you can't take a loss like hard because it's like you did something that less than 1% of the population of the world's going to do, right? And it, you know, if you lose and you lose bad, it doesn't really matter because you put out the sacrifice and the hard work to even get there, and it's all just celebration at that
Well,
point.
and for me, that wasn't even the first loss of the process. I had plenty of losses along the way where it's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
you're going to spar with Elmer today.
Yeah.
Okay, well here comes a loss.
Yeah.
Here's a loss I'm going to have for a
Yeah,
bit.
and-
Eric's going to roll with you for a little bit. Great. Here's another loss coming my way.
But that stuff stays
Well,
with
learn.
your
Fuck
life,
yeah,
though,
man.
right?
Oh,
Like,
totally.
Those are awesome memories,
Yeah.
and you know, you gain some skills too, which will you know, be applicable in real life.
I was trying to remember the dude's name. I'm sure he's probably even still trains with you. He was a shorter dude, but he was there all the fucking time. And I was thinking about training today because you were gonna be on the show, and then I was like, yeah, I remember him kicking me in the head, the cleanest I've ever been kicked in my head in my entire life, and that was the one time.
Blonde
I remember
guy?
Where what's that?
Blonde guy?
No, it was what the. I'm gonna fucking remember his name later, but I remember when we first started, like he was skinny too. Like
Eric Gee, little short, kind of dark hair, kind of Asian-y looking.
That he knows Eric,
No,
but
yeah, Eric Gee. That's what I
yeah.
kept, because I kept thinking Eric Wilson, and I'm like, no, and I always forgot his name was Eric. Yes, okay, there you go. So, anyways, yeah, he kicked me very hard across the head one time, and I remember getting kind of like knocked out enough that I hit the ground, and then I was like up right away, hey, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was knocked out, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's gonna stick with me for a bit, because I was like, it was such an odd sensation, because like I've been hit really hard before, but you always feel something, you know what I mean? That it was just like. No, nothing works. Like I'm just falling over. Somebody flipped the switch off real quick. I didn't even really, you know, like you feel it and the ringing and shit afterwards. But right when it happened, I was like, oh fuck, okay.
It's amazing being like, you know, when you train with somebody like that. Like Eric is 125 pounds. Like he's just a small guy, but he's excellent. Like super good, right? And so it is nice. Like I hold pads for him, and I can't even keep up. He's just so fast. He's. You know, he's going to be in the UFC one day. He's going to be, you know, he's
Well, and he's
there,
worked so
and
fucking hard at it.
so hard, right?
I think, yeah.
well, I think right now it's the NHL dream. I went to school with all these hockey players, and there was a lot of good hockey players coming up, and every single one said, "I'm going to make it to the NHL." And right now, and at one time when there was less hockey players, NHL was a realistic dream. But now there's more outfits than just UFC.
Yeah.
And there are so many fighters that have that dream that they're going to make it. They're
Yeah.
going to make it. Now, I think knowing a guy like Mitch Clark is an exemplary thing, as opposed. You know how many Mitch Clark guys are coming up in every town now, in every MMA gym that have their dreams of making it to the UFC. It's the NHL dream. I've been calling it. Same thing with musicians that think that they're going to get a record label and make a living off their music. It's just the likelihood is much less likely.
1%. Right?
Yeah,
and
if
it
that,
is,
if that.
it's the very best guys make it to like the UFC or
1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's hard work no matter how you get there. You know, well, I shouldn't say that, but most of the time it's extremely hard work just to get there, and you need that work ethic to be able to do it. And so I've only seen that work ethic handful of times, 5 times, and Eric is
Yeah.
actually one of those guys, right? Where Eric's the first one in the gym and the last guy to leave. Right?
Always
And
had a
that's-
deadly attitude.
Yeah, super
Never
positive.
bitchy about
Yeah,
nothing.
and that's the most important thing of all, right? Whether you pick up stuff fast or not, if you have that, and that's what Mitch had, right? And that's how he made it. You know?
Humble too.
And yeah, humble, and Mitch is super good, right? But
As opposed to that rock star shit.
yeah, he wasn't
Yeah,
like that
you
at all,
can't
right?
learn nothing if
And-
you know everything.
But he,
Right?
yeah, he. You
How do
know,
you get better when you're in?
I admire Mitch more than anybody I've ever met in martial arts, like by far. Like he struggled so hard, like living in his car for time and going through like the worst struggles possible. But he worked and made it, right? And you know he didn't have all the success that he wanted, I'm sure. But you know what? He made it more. That's way more than most people are ever going to be able to say, right? And
You
he
could
did his
compare it, I
best,
think,
so.
to WWE.
Yeah.
Although that's a little bit more the entertainment angle. How many jobbers?
it's the same thing.
How many jobbers go through there
Yeah.
as opposed to the all stars? And everybody wants to be a somebody and be an all star. Everybody wants to be, you know, like the Undertaker or one of the names, right?
Yeah.
But they're up on the way there. You have to go through like that Calgary Stampede. You have to
Yeah.
go through those different echelons before you get to that point where maybe you make it to the big show. But you're still going to be a jobber. Without being that guy, you're going to be an entry level card. You're not going to be a name, right?
That's and that's where you know at some point in your career you decide that okay, this is probably where I'm going to be, right? And then you make the choice. So I want to continue and keep working, try to win the world championship, or do I pivot now and go to something else? And for Mitch, for example, injuries were just piling up on him, and he kind of had to walk away because it was at the point where he couldn't train very well anymore.
You're going to end
right?
up broken old man.
And that's how I retired too, actually, because I couldn't train at all, really. And my only regret, in my fighting career was my last fight. I didn't train near as hard as I should have. And not to make excuses, but I was severely injured all the time, so I had a hard time even training at all. So that's when I realized, okay, I can't do this anymore. I have to retire. But I think the same was kind of for Mitch, and and there's no shame. He did the very best he could. He milked every last bit of potential he had, and he went as far as possible. And so I respect that more than these guys that are wrestlers just jumping into the UFC, right? And guys like that.
What about like some hot shots that end up on a TV show through a lottery, and because they're somebody
Yeah,
and
no,
they got a
they're-
big enough
yeah.
personality through the lottery?
Yeah.
I see so many parallels with tattooing.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got all these like Ink Master versus the UFC TV shows.
Yeah.
And it's also the same deal where I'm never going to be at the level of the young up and comers that are fucking phenomenal tattooers.
Yeah.
So I have to be pretty content with knowing what I know how to do, doing what I do, and having a team of guys that are potentially better than me. And I guess it would be very similar to being a coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having a gym versus being that hot shot, because there are hot shots out there, right?
And I realized that, like I went as far as I could, like in my professional career. I didn't do that great as I liked, but I really like coaching. Then I tried to be a better coach, and so I just transitioned to that, where I get fulfillment out of like watching guys like Dusty fight, and
The
that-
coming uppers.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
so dirty.
Yeah.
But I transitioned, and Mitch has done the same. He's transitioned to coaching more, and also professional wrestling actually. And
Oh, he's getting into that?
yeah, he's a wrestler. He's
Oh,
been
very
wrestling
cool.
for a couple of years. He's pretty good. Magnificent.
yeah.
Magnificent, Mr. Clark. So, yeah, no, I think that's like anything in life. Like if you get thrown a bad hand, you're gonna have to fold and play the next hand, right? So
There's a huge difference in martial arts between the competitive, athletic, competitive martial arts and what I came from with like the traditional refinement of body knowledge and self-defense, right? And I never was interested in being that competitive athlete when it came to. I went through fencing. I went to Canada Games with it. It wasn't really my bag. But when I got into martial arts, I really liked the refinement, the self-refinement, the learning of an art, the body movement and flow that comes with traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
But when I started training out of and teaching at your Way of the Dragon mixed martial arts gym, I saw that the attitude difference between the competitive attitude that came in, where guys that wanted to be the best and be like athletes and be on the top of the competitive aspect, and then the self-refinement aspect of learning flow drills and partner drills and learning an art. And these were almost conflicting attitudes between the people that wanted to learn an art and the people that wanted to be the toughest.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of wonder about that when we talk about like Bruce Lee. the old school kung fu guys had a real issue with Bruce Lee teaching martial arts to the Westerners because they were worried about that competitive alpha attitude influencing what traditionally was a self-defense art which kept us safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder about the movement towards competitive attitudes influencing martial arts.
Well, jiu-jitsu is the perfect mix of that, actually, because you're taking the competitive aspect of jiu-jitsu and having tournaments and that kind of stuff, where you're getting a lot of the athletes that do MMA coming into it, but they're also refining a martial arts skill and and technique and you're learning art, right?
Yes.
And so you're balancing and blending both of them.
It's
So
not checkers as opposed to chess.
yeah. So you get a lot less douchebags, which is great, right? And it's a beautiful, beautiful art to watch, right? But also fun. You're watching like guys break arms and stuff, so it's pretty fun too. But it is a nice like blend and balance for that's both, I think. That's why it's my favorite thing to do right now. All I do is eat, sleep, and breathe jiu-jitsu.
Well, it's interesting the tradition of jiu-jitsu originating with Japanese jiu-jitsu, where it was a battlefield art where guys with weapons like 4-foot razor blades are running at each other, and you need to learn to dismantle somebody if you've dropped your weapon. So you put them on the ground, you break that arm so they can no longer cut you open with a sword.
Yep.
Then changing that into judo, which was the practice of the art, which we weren't breaking arms or training to the jitsu element, turned into do. So instead of a martial art, it turned into a way. So judo being the put you on the ground, put you out to a tap, where you're learning the art of it. Then it got turned into jiu-jitsu when it hit Brazil. Judo influencing the Brazilian jiu-jitsu specifically, and then jiu-jitsu was kind of reformed from the martial way of a war art to a sport art.
Yeah. And it's progressing like like you're saying, a lot of the old school people wouldn't want you teaching your techniques to Westerners or whatever, right?
Uninitiated.
But this is nice because like you're getting so many people that are ahead of the curve and are wanting to really expand and learn and create new jiu-jitsu. So it's kind of nice. So I don't even like saying that I teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I like just saying jiu-jitsu because a lot of stuff I'm teaching isn't really from Brazil. Some of it's from catch wrestling.
Yeah,
which
that's
a
when I
huge-
was training with you. You did a lot of catch wrestling and alternative leg
a lot
locks.
of your leg locks and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leg locks,
They ain't
fucking
doing,
people
doing
up.
that in
Yeah.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
No, like my leg locks come from like Lebanese and Armenian guys, right? So is that really Brazilian jiu-jitsu what I'm teaching? Not really. And is it catch wrestling I'm teaching? Well, yes, but
Well, do you know if those guys are a little more Sambo influenced?
yeah. Like I think
I'm not sure because I'm picturing. Fuck was the great big guy that used to roll around twisting ankles all the time. Because I know Eric worked lots of fucking locks,
Ian.
but
Yeah.
Ian,
Yeah.
yes. And
He's a
because I was wondering what his
scary man.
background was.
Yeah,
with that.
Ian is the most
280-pound Sambo guy?
He's
Jesus fuck.
like the
And-
most
and, like,
devastating guy I ever rolled with. Like,
Delicate
he's
on his
just-
feet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, floats around.
Yeah.
You're
But,
like, it's a fucking big guy move like that.
He's literally one of the most dangerous guys that I know.
What about Wade Irwin?
Wade Irwin's for sure one of the most dangerous guys I know. They're different, but
Different types
Wade
of
is like Brock Lesnar if Brock Lesnar was like an elite world-class kickboxer. right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And who wants to learn like jiu-jitsu and judo. So,
And tactical
and
firearms
aikido.
training.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I didn't think he was real the first time I'd seen
Oh
him.
my God. Yeah. He's like,
He built that guy?
yeah, he looks like G.I. Joe, like a retired G.I. Joe general. I mean,
That you just
I know.
kept adding
Yeah.
extra muscle on?
yeah, he just
Yeah.
Just
Like-
slapping it here and there?
like Wade is literally the last guy I know that would fight. Like
Ooh.
that guy I personally know. Like he's literally it. Him and like,
Ian?
Ian wouldn't go very good either. But
See, okay, I've got this categorization that there's a certain echelon of scary dude that I would need a shotgun in any chance to win at all. I would need a shotgun in order to defeat this individual,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even then, it's up in the air whether or not
Yeah.
I would win.
Yeah.
And it Wade and definitely falls into that category.
yeah.
I'm like, man, even if you get like 3 or 4 rounds with a shotgun against this guy, he still might tear you apart.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what I would do.
He shoots it back at you with his pecs.
Really, like
Like a fucking
when the
cartoon
guy's
character.
single thigh is the size of like my torso,
Yeah.
and I don't have a thin torso. He's just that thick. He's a monster of a man.
I remember holding pads for months and it didn't. He was doing it almost like he wasn't trying because he wasn't certain of the technique yet. It was like something new he was working, so he's just kind of doing it. And I'm like, holy fuck, dude! Like,
And
that's not giving her. All right, well,
So, yeah,
it's
and
giving
that's
her.
an impact version. Can you imagine trying to lock that guy out if he just decides, no, I'm not going to let you bend me that way?
Throw me up.
Yeah,
over
no
the
chance.
side.
Yeah,
no chance.
yeah.
Spin around
Size
with
and
a pizza
strength
pie.
and weight like makes a huge difference in anything, right? So Like I'm pretty sure my jiu-jitsu would be pretty much useless against Wade too if you.
And even
it'd be hard.
What
so.
can you really do?
Get his
bite?
fucking back.
Like,
Choke him out.
I'll rape whistle. That's all I
Yeah,
can do.
yeah.
Please stop.
Rape whistle, yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
We tried defecating.
smearing it on yourself and running.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hold on
Solid
to you.
technique.
Yeah.
I like that you say there's levels because that's a realization everybody needs to remember is that there's levels to all this stuff. Like as dangerous as I might think I am, and people talk about me. There's guys that are so far ahead of me. It's not even funny. Like Mitch, when I roll with Mitch, I just try to stay alive for a minute.
Yep.
Like that's my goal. It's like I'm gonna try to make it 2 minutes now without him strangling me. And it's just embarrassing.
And
like
near death experience
yeah.
every fucking
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and I still, he still murders me. And there's guys that murdered him. And I'm like, holy man.
Everybody's
So-
a badass until they run into that badass that's just a little heavier.
That just reminds me of that time. I'm pretty sure you were there, and I can't remember the little dude's name, but Gansorn got into it with him, and they were kind of like the light sparring or something, and the little dude threw a fucking elbow and hit John, and started like really wanting to scrap them, and John picked him clean up over his head, like just lifted him straight up over his head, and bodied that little dude as hard as I've ever. Like he bounced, he didn't get
remember
arms and
this.
legs out. He just bodied him, and he kind of popped up right afterwards and like was clearly hurt but still like all pride, all still fight. And I'm just like, dude, he almost killed you. Like you looked planted. That was one of the funniest cases of, oh yeah, I think our techniques are the same. Yeah, okay, cool, dude. He's a whole human being bigger than
Yeah.
you. Just fucking pump the brakes.
And John's super good too. Like,
Oh,
that's, like,
and knows boundaries, right? And when the kid fucking pushed it over at him with that elbow, he's like, "Oh, you want to play MMA? Hey?" Oh, it was so funny. But like,
John's also on that
terrifying
list of
at the same
guys
time.
I wouldn't want to fight.
He's a bad
He's-
dude.
Really?
He's
He's a
bad
big
dude.
man. Yeah, he's
I
good
remember,
jiu-jitsu.
I remember one time him teaching me some shit, and again, I was just learning, and I'd gone a little harder than a person probably should have for like, he's like, here's the technique, and I ended up like bopping him in the mouth a little bit with like a shoulder or some shit, and he made me pay for that pretty quick. He's like, oh, you want to go a little harder? No, dude, I didn't really. Okay, we're going harder. yeah, and I learned my boundaries that day. And got slapped, as they say.
Well, MMA is different that way, and ideally people respect each other's boundaries, because if you want to be that alpha male, you're always going to run into the bigger, scarier alpha
Somebody
male.
will check you. Yeah.
And that's in life across the board,
Elmer's coming in later.
Oh man, like fucking, and that's just it. And on a street level, you see these young guys that want to be the alpha tough guy, and they're gonna push their weight around, but sooner or later they're gonna have to either get sketchier or learn their lesson. They're gonna get that ego check. What are you gonna do? You're gonna keep, okay, now I'm gonna start carrying a knife. Okay, guess what? Now I'm gonna have to carry a gun.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now I'm gonna have to have 3 guys behind me that carry guns too.
Bazookas.
And yeah, well, or you click up with a big scary group of people that it's just that escalation game. So how far do you want to go before you just decide, hey, it's not, I don't want to be be that alpha male anymore. I don't want to escalate.
I wore
that
sweatpants
game.
here today.
Well, I think we all are actually. All of us are
That's
wearing
a
sweatpants
minimal
here.
amount of alpha I'm trying to exude in my life right now.
You seen my T-shirt?
Well, and you know what?
Shake my balls for this.
One of the big reasons I really liked Way of the Dragon when I trained there was because everybody smiled. There was a lot of laughing. There was it was sort of like a little bit stand-up comedy when you went in there, and it wasn't super serious.
I've
There
never
were
seen
some
so
certain
much
guys that
chuckling.
would scream through their MMA class, you kick, you fucking asshole, you kick her. And
Where's that
everybody
accent
else,
from exactly?
yeah, and
Sounds
everybody
like
else
European
would kind of
to
like,
me.
what's going on with that guy over there?
Sounded Croatian.
Yeah, it sounded like
Coming
a
at me about
Croatian
from
accent.
5'2" off the ground too. Is that right?
So yeah, and it's funny because that was the exception to the rule. It wasn't the rule. It wasn't like laughing and having a good time, and then was the rule versus the exception to the rule. And I've heard in other gyms where you go there, everybody's trying to be the alpha tough guy, and I don't really dig that vibe.
Well, I like your warm-ups. Hey, like usually it's some goofy fucking music you're playing. You're like, what? This is it again? And you're like, everybody hates it. You're like, that's why I love this. Hey, and then you're gonna warm up and you're gonna stretch and make sure you tickling your earlobe when you reach around this side here. I'm gonna get it. I'm like, you don't get that other experience other gyms. Nobody's coming around and putting a finger.
Or he's
in your
wearing
ear.
a space kitten rash guard. Yeah, the bright yellow. He looks like the Kill Bill girl. Or
Yeah, you
the-
melt a lot of ego pretty quick in an environment like that. It's hard to be a tough guy, when you're rolling with a guy in a kitten outfit and he's slapping the shit out of you.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like when you do that competitive martial arts, you can't go in with too much ego because you're going to get checked. And I got checked plenty. I got injured plenty. And I roll with Colby. Colby is like rolling with a fucking small horse. And I just basically learned to lose.
Yeah.
I learned to lose. You learn to lose. You learn to lose. You're not that good. And then every once in a while you get into it on the street and you really get an ego crushing, and that's important.
An ego eyeball.
Yeah. You walk
Get it
away
all
with
crushed.
stitches, and it's the same deal with, I guess, MMA. When you face a loss in MMA, you walk away a lot more humbled than you walked in, and I think that's important to get that once in a while. A lot
Yeah,
of
some people. Some people are delusionary, though. Walk away. I didn't lose shit.
Yeah.
You didn't see what? Knock me out, motherfucker. I was barely out.
So you guys, you have Netflix. Have you seen Kingdom? What's your takeaway on Kingdom?
I watched the first 40 minutes. I had to shut it off. It's
Yeah,
just so
really? Is that
stupid.
bad?
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
That's like
incredibly-
MMA drama.
Yeah.
incredibly stupid. You guys have seen an MMA gym, and you know what it's like, and it's not like that at all. It's ridiculous. And
Okay.
so I couldn't do it. So
Too fake.
yeah, other than the naked girls,
Yeah.
and
I'm just waiting for like the tattoo shop drama to come out, like where like
Instead of reality TV
yeah,
stars.
instead of like, 'cause this
Why
Kingdom,
haven't they done that yet?
Yeah,
Does it make any
exactly. All the
sense?
drama that
Melrose
goes on
Place and
around the
fucking
tattoo shop. Fuck,
I'm
I'm
on board with it, actually.
Actually, somebody
I'm
get a
there for
hold of me.
that.
I'll help you write
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know,
Now that we've set it up, okay, so we're gonna do this on Crack Island. We're gonna have
Crack
our,
Island. That's what it should be called.
our
Crack
scripted,
Island Inc.
tattoo show. Yeah, Crack Island Inc. for love and bullet. I don't know what the
I
fuck
think
it is.
it potentially has like if somebody wanted to invest in it, it would go. You know, there's lots of shit that could
Sure.
come through a tattoo.
You're getting a
shop.
lot of demographics there too,
Oh,
right?
fucking the gangster periphery, the drug addict tattoo guy, the prima donna girl that's like whoring around the city and like crying on Instagram.
I think it'd just be mostly about
Pouring and crying.
just be like tattoo artists not showing up for appointments.
Oh,
Like,
that's
that's all it'd be, right? That's all the drama, right? So,
Yeah, it's all scheduled with like some scheduling program. Hey, the guy's like, we have so much drama in our shop. It's like, no, you just download this fucking app. This alarm's gonna go off. That's when you got to be here.
So,
must be you
Yeah.
you showing screenshots of the excuse they made for not coming to their appointment.
yeah,
Ah,
whatever
my-
it is.
My dog's on fire.
My dog's on fire today. I'm caught on the other side of the province with a bike that won't start on a chop run. No, I can't make it to work. You love getting tattooed though, Dave, eh?
No, I hate it. It's the
Yeah,
worst.
you love it.
I go 10 years between tattoos, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
we don't need to. Let's see. So Dave has a tattoo of which book from The Art of War?
It's a 6th chapter.
Sixth chapter of The Art of War that starts on his sternum, goes all the way around his shoulder, across. Does it go between the dragon on your back?
Yeah, I kind of go around it.
Around the dragon on your back, around the other arm, and across the chest, and loved every sitting.
Oh, the worst.
Loved me, you know. That was a fucking nightmare tattoo. I did it once,
tough
and I
to
will
lay out.
never do another one.
Is it because I was whiny and like squirming?
No, it's the fact that I wrote a book of Chinese that I don't understand. A full fucking, you know, like line after line
As
after
soon as it
line.
starts, that was like my logistically. I'm like, that'd have been tough to do. How do you make a book go in line around someone's
Oh,
body
Jesus Christ,
in a
and, like-
different language?
And then the characters that missed, you have to like carry it over. It was such a nightmare, and I'll never do it again. I did it once, and I'm afraid to take a picture just in case one or two of those characters is like the wrong one. It's like when preparing chicken fried rice, you must. You know,
Son of a bitch.
Oh, that was-
yeah.
I have room on my right
It might
leg.
have to be food though. It's not
really?
racist.
You know, the 7th chapter on my right leg, maybe?
oh Jesus Christ! No. Anyways, yeah, tattooing is definitely well, it's one of those old school war arts, right? Where there's a Borneo headhunter maxim that says, if you can't withstand the needles of a friend, how will you ever withstand the spears of an enemy?
Oh,
and
shit.
Yeah, and I really like that. That like, hey, we're friends doing
Yeah.
this to each other. Same thing in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't handle this coming from a friend, how will you ever handle
Yeah.
this coming from an enemy?
Crying in
right?
the dojo, laugh on the battlefield.
Someone who really wants to hurt you, and I'm just training you a little bit for this, you know, like this is gonna sting, this is gonna sting. I'm not gonna break you, but that guy over there wants to break you.
Isn't that kind of what parenting is?
Yeah, right.
Isn't that what child rearing is?
I'm gonna bully you this
Yeah,
much. so
exactly.
you
I
can
gotta bully
prepare.
you enough so that the children at school can't hurt your feelings.
Yeah,
that was an
yeah.
Arrested Development gag. They're like, yeah, mother. No one was ever as cruel as the children at school, or his mother was. Yeah,
So,
so you're
let's
fine
see.
then, I guess.
I don't think I'd ever get another tattoo, but now that I have some tramadol, maybe I'll look it up again.
So, how do you consolidate COVID and training?
We're taking a break from training, and yeah, so during COVID, we're not going to be training.
Okay, I got a buddy.
Yes.
Yes, officially.
Yes.
Officially, there's no
That's-
training. Nobody is getting belts during
That's
COVID.
right. There's
I got a
no
one
classes.
friend- No classes. There
No
are
classes at all.
in MMA during COVID. Just like we are really only doing half capacity tattooing during COVID. Question. One of my buddies, one scenario that I work with, he's doing jujitsu, but it's only with one person, one trusted person. And so would you suggest that's an option for training?
Yeah, if you can do anything right now, like most gyms have their own kind of rules. Some of them are set by the government, but some of them are still operating. But you know, anything you can do right now. Like I have a different philosophy on this COVID thing, so I
What's
think
your
everybody I'll get canceled for sure.
Please.
I think everybody should kind of almost keep doing what they're regularly doing, just with some restrictions like wearing a mask and social
common
distancing.
sense.
That stuff should be happening, but I think they should lift all restrictions pretty much, with exceptions of like old folks home or hospitals or that kind of stuff. Like, but I think we should mostly go back to our lives. I think being healthy is the most important thing. Not staying locked up in your house watching Netflix all day. I think that's not good for you, both mentally and physically.
Well,
So-
even, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're even kind of challenging the COVID restrictions as having this little meeting.
Oh, of
We're
course.
closer than social distancing, but I think this isn't healthy for us to have human interaction where otherwise I'd
No,
be...
there's less than 5 of us too, and I know all of us have
okay.
all been, other than whatever you have to do for work. I know our social groups have been relatively small.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
yeah.
Well, we're
So,
not sweating
I think
and
it's a
bleeding on
safer,
each other.
safer way, and I mean, I think that's the whole point of all of this, right? Is like the intent is, like you said, staying healthy, keeping people fucking safe. So if we do what we think is best for that at the time, awesome. But when people, willingly go into a place and don't wear a mask to make a point, okay, well then that's counterintuitive to what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Whereas again, like you say, with the capacities and shit like that, a lot of it is, to me, seems arbitrary. It does not seem to me as though they have science between whether 25%
I
or
think they're
65%
spitballing here and there.
capacity. Well, really, because that was what happened with ski hills here in the province. They started out, they said, well, 150 person capacity for each of these facilities, where for some facilities, like Little Red in Prince Albert, 30 or 40 is a good day for them. Whereas Wapiti Valley, for example, 150, if they're only open 3, maybe 4 days a week, they can't stay open for that much. They have to have bigger crowds than that just to keep their fucking lights on. So it was like they didn't put a bunch of forethought into it. They're just like, well, what seems like a number that if we had people in a place wouldn't be so big that people would freak out, but they could still stay open, And then they didn't really, and now they've removed the restrictions on that. They can have as many people as they want on the outside, like on the outdoor facility. It's just on your indoor facilities, you gotta have X amount of people or whatever, and you have to have distancing. So they've adapted it. But that being said, now Wapiti's not going to be open this year because they waited too fucking long for them to let them know what they could do, and what they were telling them they could do. They couldn't fucking open with that.
I think they're trying to really balance economy versus health. How can we make a living and keep people healthy?
Yeah.
The best way to do both and to balance those. I think I agree with you to some degree that the restrictions are above and beyond what's necessary, but they're also trying to cater to the lowest common denominator of moron.
That's the problem, right?
That-
Because every time they even if they roll it back a little bit, people go, well, if it says this is the limit, well, I can get right up next to it, right? That's all. It's always the thing. It's like speed limits are a fantastic fucking example. We do not have to travel at 100 on the highway. You can travel at 98. You can travel at 95. You can travel at 90. Anything over that is technically over the speed limit. But everybody travels at 105 or 110 because that's how far we can push it and still get away without getting pulled over.
That's
Sometimes you travel more when you think there's not going to be any
I'm
cops.
familiar with-
You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying, right? That's what we do with this shit. But with this, it's not just a ticket or maybe you're more injury due to yourself. This is spreading of the goddamn plague.
Well, I think I agree with you, Dave, where it's like those people that are most at risk, maybe you have a heightened level of decontamination when you go into those environments, like retirement homes, places of risk, like hospitals, highly congested areas like Walmarts, or for sure, you're sterilized, you do your hand washing, but out and about in regular fucking life, I think maybe we just do our hand washing and fucking social distancing and masks. That's it. You don't need to do the massive lockdowns. But the other side is there's a lot of fucking morons that are going to push as much as they can. So they have to consider that they have to treat everybody like a fucking moron, because
they tried to at the start, just let people make their own decisions and go with the
couldn't do
information.
it.
And people are like, no, you won't tell me to wear a mask. I guess I'm not wearing one then. If you don't make it a fucking rule, I'm not going to do it. That's what I'm saying. Speed limit's
common
100,
sense
I'm
is
going to do
anything but
105.
common. Common sense is anything but common.
Push
I
right
think
to
is
the
what it really
goddamn
is.
limit.
Yeah. So what would you do? See then, like, because realistically, if you give people an inch, they're going to take a mile.
Yeah, like we're not in a society that are trained for this or even wanting to do this. Like you see places like Singapore and Korea where they're used to these kind of things happening all the time. They've had SARS and those other epidemics come through. And so
A lot of the Asian countries already wear masks.
they already wear masks for this reason, right? And so now they know that, COVID-19 is out, so we need to follow these guidelines. They have no problem. Everybody wears a mask. They social distance. They do all that stuff. But we have so many people in North America that wouldn't do that just because, like, I'm not gonna.
Well, and it's not here yet. You know what I mean? Well, it's not affecting me
they're
yet.
just-
But
yeah.
it's like, give it a day, though. Give it a week. Give it a
Yeah.
month. When does it? And then you decide you're going to do it. By then, maybe you've missed your opportunity to not be
I would
affected
almost
by it.
guarantee in China they're doing a hard quarantine on any positive case.
Oh, for sure.
You know, if you get a positive,
Yeah.
boom, you're off. Like you're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
the quarantine camp, and
Yeah.
that eliminates it really quickly. You aren't saying, "Oh, okay, we're going to trust you to go home and stay home for
Yeah.
2 weeks." They're like, as soon as you get a positive result, no, you're not going home anymore. You're getting on the bus, and the bus takes you to where all the positive
Yeah.
cases are.
And even then, who's doing that? Like the MLAs that are telling you to do this, and then they're fucking off to Hawaii and
I haven't even
you know,
heard. I heard a
All
little bit
over
about
the
that.
holidays here, there's been a bunch. Yeah, all throughout
Lots
the
of
country,
them,
different levels, different fucking parties. People fucking off to Barbados or wherever else when we're all supposed to be, staying locked. And I
That's
know
a double
there was,
standard.
I've already
and now
heard-
what happens, right? Now
We're
these
gonna
guys are
see-
like, well, if they're not gonna
Yep,
follow these rules, then I'm
they
not
said
going
that
to.
was the
And-
problem with the U.S. to begin with. Was like with Trump never putting on a mask to start out with. There were so many people. They're like, well, if he's not doing it, why would I?
Yep.
And that's it. That's as far as the argument needs to go. Because somebody higher up the ladder than me isn't doing it, I don't have to do it then. And yeah, so more of that. People exactly not following it. And then I know anecdotally plenty of people
Yeah.
that are all fucked off to go skiing or do whatever they want to do over the holidays to a different province and then go and see their family who are coming from someplace else. And it's like, well, but I mean, they get to. And it's like, yeah, but we all shouldn't. Just because I see somebody else doing it doesn't mean I should.
It's strange because as an introvert, like a natural introvert, this has been my holiday. I get to avoid people for a few weeks. Fucking A, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to avoid people, to play my video games, to hang out with my partner and my kid, and that's it. I don't have to go socialize. Now, I understand what Dave's saying too, that like, are we sacrificing our emotional and psychological health for physical health? Like people are going like I bet there's an upsurgence of depression, of anxiety, of obesity, of pregnancies.
Are you staring at me?
Yeah. Oh, well, no. No, because people are not allowed to go out and walk their dogs and to socialize. Like I think you mentioned at the last one that the last podcast that I'm actually having drinks. I'm getting high. You know what I mean? Not recreationally. Me and my partner are doing like ceremonial, ritual kind of self work, getting high, playing with psychedelics. But I'm doing these things because the other vents on our we would go to a dance club and have social interactions sober because that was our vent to and removed from that. What we're replacing it with? Bad food. Binge watching Netflix? Are we sacrificing our emotional and psychological health for our physical health? And is that an acceptable exchange?
So I'm going to do it. I'm going to watch a bunch of Netflix and eat terrible food.
Yeah, well,
And I'm going to find out how that goes.
but is that an acceptable exchange?
I know,
Is that
right?
as a society? Is that what we're willing to make to keep
Well,
some
if
people
you're
safe?
depressed, right? If
To
you're
keep some
fucking, you're already
people
kind of
safe,
sick.
so
you're already kind of run down, and it's fine. But yeah, no, not for thinking clear about it. But it's again, yeah, it's fucking because it expects us all to be responsible, and that was the problem with this to begin with. Because even professionals were like, well, no, people will still do the responsible thing, right? They won't run headlong into the plague. They won't have parties welcoming COVID into their fucking lives. They'll do the responsible things,
won't go
right?
to a nightclub
and it's
and be
like
nuts to butts.
Nope, we went full fucking volume, the opposite direction, the first chance you gave us.
Well, and that's exactly what happened here in town. There was one specific nightclub that was literally nuts to butts. The dance floor, there was no social distancing, there was no masks. You had mentioned that you saw as a bar owner the problems that they were doing, and that one club being so fucking packed
Yeah.
caused a huge lashback on almost every nightclub or a bar or restaurant in town because that one place decided to try and cash in as much as they could.
Well, and that comment section goes, well, why are any bars open immediately, right? Like, why can't they just get booze at home? And why can't they, and it's like, well, because there's still fucking businesses and there's still people that work there that, like, they're paying fucking rent somewhere and the landlords need their fucking money. That's why. You guys tout this system all the time as, that's how it works and that's how we get by. And then you complain when it's like, why do we want to keep doing it? Well, because you fucking already said this is what we're doing.
what did you see, Dave?
Well, first of all, that cost me a lot of money, unfortunately. So,
Which that one nightclub did that, and they
yeah.
opened up, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden everybody had to shut down.
Yeah, we had an agreement with a nightclub to do UV cleaning of their coats. So we're going to run the coat check, and so we're going to make a lot of money like every night. But we got shut down that week right before Halloween when we were supposed to start. So I think I probably lost like a couple grand a month by that happening, and so that sucks. And
Yeah, and you
then,
guys are trying to play by the rules. You're trying to keep
Yeah.
your business open. You're trying to avoid
Well, that wasn't
right.
even a nightclub.
Plus,
that
yeah.
was his cleaning gig.
That's right.
Yeah.
Plus, like our bar was hampered by that as well, because then all of a sudden people are just not going out because they can't. Like there's less restriction. There's more restrictions now, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have to stop serving alcohol at 10 o'clock. So
Yeah.
Who's bothering
That
to go
was the
out?
next thing that happened. All of a sudden, 10 o'clock.
Because of this,
cap.
right? And so like, oh man, so this one nightclub really screwed everybody over. And
Well, see, and the crazy thing about that is too, like you said, like you guys, you have to adjust. Okay, now we can only be open until 10, serving drinks, and then and all these other fucking things. Where even if they did have a hard shutdown for a bit, you could at least lay people off. You don't buy a bunch of fucking stock that now you either have to figure out how to return or goes to fucking waste. And like, there's all those other things when they jerk you around constantly from 2 weeks to the next. It's like, well, this much we can do now. Well, this much we can do now. When again, most anybody who was a fucking expert on this was saying back before Christmas, they're like, fuck, just if we take 2-3 weeks where we just fucking shut her down, it's gonna make a big circuit breaker where we trip it, we let it kind of die out wherever it is, it doesn't get to get spread around, and then we can fucking move on from there.
So it really makes me
This
wonder
trickle,
then,
it
the
just keeps everything going.
consequences of somebody blatantly fucking ignoring some basic basic rules. Why isn't that a reasonable thing? Like, okay, yeah, in a society where you catch COVID, you're now quarantined. You know what I mean? If you weren't following social distancing in your business, you have a real fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it sounds like they're fining people though for get-togethers and shit. But again, then it's like, fuck, we're giving people tickets for having a fucking Christmas dinner. You know, like. But again, it's like, how do you? This is what stops the plague from spreading. Like, it sucks. And I don't agree with any of it. You know what I mean? It all fucking sucks.
Measures for extraordinary times. Like, I'm sorry. Like, freedom. Guess what? Yeah, freedom sucks when you lose it, because we have to do that right now because people will die if we don't. Right. And you know what? If you want to make a living, don't break the rules, and then we can all make a living. But the one asshole was like, well, you know what? Fuck it. That doesn't apply to my bar. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And then every single restaurant and bar in Saskatoon suffers because of the actions of this one moron that wants to be the non-masker that storms into the store saying, I don't have to wear a mask. That's essentially the same fucking deal, right? Like the protest in the mall where everybody's like, I'm not going to wear a mask. And then, cool, you're all going to get $2,000, $3,000 tickets. My freedoms. No, you fucking are causing a damage for everybody else.
they don't get that part. So
They don't. And so what the fuck does it take, right? Yeah.
Brittle.
Well, unfortunately, probably some horrible fucking thing happening in their lives before it finally clicks. They need to lose somebody they know or some other bullshit like that, because that's generally what we respond to. The worst of case scenarios.
So, what is the new normal? Well, how long do you think this is going to last? I had a friend telling me, oh yeah, when your kid graduates high school, maybe you want to move out and she's on her own. Do you want to move to Montreal with us? I'm like, well, fuck, I'd like to, but I don't really know in 4 years if Montreal's going to be a safe place to fucking live, or if it's going to be a hotbed of virus. You know, like, what's the future look like? Do you think it's going to go back to normal, or do you think?
I think there'll be some major changes. Like we'll lose the theaters. I think that'll be the one thing that everybody will notice.
Period.
Yeah,
I think
It'll
they're
be a
done.
thing of the
I think
past,
they're
kind of
done.
like Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
I just don't think they'll survive. Like, how can they, right? And I think a lot of these, like for example, at the bar, we're going to make some small changes that are permanent because of this, right?
You think
like,
nightclubs will be a thing of the past, like dance clubs?
that they could very well die too. But yeah, I don't know. It's who knows what's going to happen a year from now. Like, it's be a crazy year. This year will be just as crazy as last year. So.
Well, and there's so many anti-vaxxers. I think vaccines are the only thing that could, a functional vaccine, are the only things that could return us to any sense of normalcy. Like, you can go to a nightclub or a theater if you've got your vaccination card.
But that's again,
More
that's
control.
only if you're up to date on it, and for this one thing. We get another mutated strain. We get a COVID 22.
Or any other pandemic,
right?
you know?
Then we've got to do that again. So it gets to be a point where it's like, okay, well, these vaccines are still going to be necessary, and that's how we can exist.
Yeah.
But all the other measures we're taking, it's 9/11. I don't get to fucking go through an airport and not take my shoes off anymore.
Yeah, so this could
Right?
be the new
So I don't get to go to the
normal
grocery
from
store
now
and
on.
not wear a mask anymore. Like that's what this shit's going to be. And what the fuck are we going to do about it? You know what I mean? I don't like going to the airport and having to strip down every time, but that's what
Welcome
the
to
fucking rules
the new
are.
normal.
Yep. And it's to keep us safe, right? It's to keep us safe.
Is it? Yeah,
That's-
and
that's the-
see, and this
that's
is
the
the
tagline.
crux with the whole pandemic crowd, where they're like,
Yeah.
this was engineered to control people.
But here, sorry, just to jump in on that though, it is engineered to control, but the only control they've exerted really on us individually is the actual physical mask wearing. You know what I mean? Everything else is kind of like, well, we set out these guidelines you could kind of follow. You know, like the only thing has really been like that, and it's like was that the plan?
Well-
Was that the goal? Was to get us all to commit to masks and
Gigs, festivals, theaters, large crowd gatherings, when they become prohibited, will we ever have protests? Will we ever have?
Well, but that's the one thing that's still happened throughout this entire thing. Protests have still been allowed to happen, even though
Where
you
are
can't
the
get together
spikes?
for a wedding.
I went to a Black Lives Matter protest with 5,000 people in close proximity to each other in Saskatoon. Literally, like it was like the busiest nightclub I've ever been to. It was very hard for me to navigate from one side to the other. I didn't see a COVID spike. So there's that stuff that's on the table.
That's like that happened all throughout the States, and there was no giant COVID spike like they were predicting, right?
Yeah. So what's going on?
I don't know what you're talking about though. Like they're losing 3,000 people a day in the U.S. right now, not getting it. That's deaths.
Yeah.
That's a 9/11 every day for this thing. Those numbers that's astronomical. That is not. Oh, there was no spike. This is. It
I'm
almost doesn't
talking
get better.
legitimately in Saskatoon. I went to a 5,000 person rally and we
Yeah.
didn't see that huge spike
Well,
immediately.
there's been spikes
after.
numerously throughout here. All of a sudden, we'll go up to 150 cases in a day. And with that, it was also outside. And many of you guys were wearing masks and whatnot, even if it wasn't mandated, because I know even you had a scarf on. You know what I mean?
No,
So
I
there's still
know.
mitigating factors why it's not the same as a dance hall where everybody is
Yeah.
right on top of each other, indoors, recirculated air, no mask wearing. You guys are outdoors, no recirculated air, many people wearing masks, even if you're near each other, less chance of transmission. So that could be the reason why, because it's like, that's the whole thing about this, right? It's like, why aren't we seeing more spikes? So it's like, well, because the things we're doing are working. The fact that we're still making people rinse their hands when they go into Walmart, and you should have to wear a mask when you go in there, all that kind of stuff. The places that aren't doing that, they're still seeing their numbers. Like my mom had to come up again because my grandpa died over fucking Christmas here. She had to come up from North Dakota, where she's like, no, it's outrageous. She says, like, the numbers just go nuts every fucking day. She says, like, 1 in 9 people who worked at her prison have all got fucking COVID. You know what I mean? Or off because of it. You know, like, but that's a place again where they weren't doing even what we were doing 2 months ago.
Well, I
so
wonder
the
about
fact
the
that we're not
prisons.
seeing them is
Straight
that
up.
we've been doing it.
You got
you know
two
what I
people
mean?
living in a room the size
Yeah.
that we're sharing right
It
now. How
spreads
can
quick.
COVID not explode
It's
in that?
the only way you can do it is not get it in there, and that's through the staff, and that's why they're so. Because like my mom gets tested once a week, you know what I mean, to make sure they're not bringing it in, and they're still again 1 in 9 of them are getting fucking exposure.
I wonder on the regular basis every time. Like there's this, what was it? A new show on Netflix. It's got a dumpster fire. It's like Welcome to 20.
Oh, that's the Black Mirror thing, I believe.
Yeah, well, it was done by the guys that did Black Mirror. It's a mockumentary about revisiting 2020, and I'm thinking when I look at this, are we sitting on the cusp of end times? Like, are we sitting on the cusp of our ecological collapse? Profiteers now can go run away and cordon themselves off in their billionaire compounds, while we watch everybody catch or avoid catching this crazy virus. Like this is kind of where we're at. Like the new normal. What is the new?
Hey, when you go
fucking
big
normal?
picture like that, you see it, you're like, that's what's fucking happening, though.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like,
And-
no, it's wild.
And,
It's wild.
and it's funny because I get to edit these podcasts after, and I listen to our conversations back, and I'm like, holy fuck! Like we're actually documenting what's fucking happening in the globe during one of the most pivotal world shifts. What's gonna
Yeah, man.
happen? How are we going to live
Yeah, man.
when we can't go to work? When we can't pay our mortgages? When are we going to go on the streets? Are the banks going to kick us out of our apartments, out of our businesses, out of our houses because we can't pay rent, because we can't make our bills? What are those-
Or will we navigate this delicately and actually get through this where we're okay? And the guys below us, the
You
U.S.
just
doesn't
said-
figure it out.
You just said, what about the new version of the virus? You
Yes,
know, like
yes.
there's the
Yep.
one that they found, the new strain from the UK, and now all of a sudden there's people in Ontario that are showing up with the strain that they discovered in the UK. But now there's another one that they found, an African one that's different. That these are all modifying and mutating and mutating. So what the fuck is going to happen?
Yeah.
The government is trying to figure it out, and they're the same as us. They're like, like
Well, but
fucking
if you think about it, like
lock
I mean,
people down.
even at a 1% mortality rate, like I mean, that is an enormous number when you're talking like human fucking lives, and we're whatever we are, 30 million people or whatever live in Canada. That is insane to lose that many people. But to lose that many people every year wouldn't stop our society. Wouldn't stop. It would be terrible. People would be constantly seeing death and having all these other things. But it's like, no, we can still keep the gears turning though. Like I don't even
which
know what.
gears, right? The
Well,
economy.
that's it, right? Whatever keeps
Like,
the money going and whatever society is the fucking.
I was talking with my
existing.
friend, and she works in a bank. And realistically, where are the bankers weighing in on this? Because all it would take is the banks, literally, to say, you know what, we're going to forgive some mortgages for a while. we're going to forgive interest rates for a while. We're going to say, if you own property, we're not expecting you to pay mortgages. We're not expecting you to pay your interests. We're going to forgive the landlords who own mortgages on properties so they don't have to kick everybody out on the streets. The banks could step up and just say, look, that's cool.
Yeah.
We're
Why
gonna-
couldn't the government have done that?
yeah, or the government forcing banks
I
to
would
say,
have. Yeah. Like if I was Trudeau, like you're not going to have anybody pay a mortgage next year.
yeah, exactly. But the banks won't let it happen, and the banks own politicians, and the banks own the company or the countries.
Yeah.
So that's really what it boils down to. Who's really profiting from this,
course.
regardless,
Yeah.
regardless. And it's bigger than like these billionaires. It's legitimately the financial system itself. And at any given time, the banks can say, look, we're not going to accept, we're not going to collect your mortgage. We're going to forgive some debt for a period of time. We're just going to put a pause on it.
Yeah.
It's not like they're ever going to fucking lose it.
Well, and that's just it. The only loss is profit. It's not, and it's not like, oh, we can't keep going. It's gonna cost us a bunch. No, you're just not gonna make more. There's a difference between that.
Eventually, once, like, if the banks forgave or paused these payments,
Yeah.
just we're going to pause it for a while until, like, it's a global pandemic,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
You know, we can pause this stuff for a minute. And then once we're able to get a hold of it, start it up again. You know, you don't have to say, oh, we're going to give you a break, but we're going to put that debt on top once, you know, you're going to be giving us more payments. That's how my mortgage worked. I went to the bank. I said, okay, I'm going to need some sort of like break here. They're like, yeah, for sure. We'll give you a few months break and then you'll pay it off. Just fucking
Yeah, it's not
pause.
free. Just put it at the end of your term.
Yeah. Just pause it. Just pause it. You're not giving anybody anything, but yeah, who knows? Who knows?
I've got. I don't have a class to teach right away.
What time is
I
it?
mean,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have class to
I-
teach, and I don't have supper to eat, and
I got more beer to play with.
yeah, exactly. All right, so I was 28. Yeah, hopefully see you back again, man. Like this
Yeah,
is
it was
good.
fun.
Yeah.
Lovely. We actually talked about a lot of different things than what I was even anticipating. So
I
that's
still
good
got
because there's
stuff on here.
exactly there's more. There's so much more.
I'll turn up the racism a little bit more.
Yeah.
Be
We'll
comfortable.
just talk
Be
about
you.
you know, people that are like this thing that I don't like. Anyways. Okay, love you, Dave. Love
Cool.
you, dude.
Love yous as well.
Love you guys.
Peace
Bye.
out. Bye.